Hey folks, this is the first video in a series that will be focusing on Google Apps Script's Gmail app. This series is going to be tailored to beginners. The only prereq that you have for it is a Gmail account, which will also give you access to Google Drive. I'm going to try and move swiftly and keep the focus on learning how to code. If you're interested in learning about programming fundamentals, I have a playlist on my channel page. Otherwise, we are going to begin in Google Drive in the My Drive view. The first thing that we are going to do is create a project folder. So you can do that in one of two ways. You can either select New and then create a new folder, or you can see here there is a hotkey that will do this for you. So I'm going to hit Control-C because I'm on a Mac, and I'm going to hit F. And now I will be creating a Gmail app project folder. Double click into the project folder. We're going to be working out of an unbound app script, which means that it is a standalone project file that is not directly associated with another Google Drive productivity app such as Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Slides, etc. We're going to do that by going to the New section, scrolling down to More, and then opening up Google Apps Script. This prompt is just saying that anybody who has access to the folder that this project is stored in can edit or run the app script file. So this is important if you're developing some type of application and you don't want other people to change it or be able to run it or anything like that. It doesn't matter for me because no one else has access to this folder, so I'm going to create my script. So when you create an app script project, you're going to have some boilerplate that you see in front of us here, which is a code.js file. And then you have a function called myFunction. In order to run code in Google Apps Script, you need to have a function. So in this case, we have myFunction. We can start coding. I'm not going to do that. I am going to be creating individual files that is going to be focused on the lesson for each video. So the first thing I'm going to do is rename my project. So I'm going to call it Gmail App Lesson. You can call this whatever you want to. So the focus of this series is going to primarily be on writing and reading emails. So the first couple lessons is going to focus on sending emails, and then we are going to work through how to read emails that exist in your inbox. We're going to begin by navigating to the Files menu, and we are going to add a new script file. You can call your files whatever you want to. I'm going to call mine, so for example, I'm going to call mine a_send_email. And I'm going to hit Enter, and then you can see because it's a script file, it ends in .gs. So the reason that I'm doing this is because you can order your files alphabetically. So the way that that works is that files get sorted from numbers first, capital letters second, lowercase letters third. So you can see here, even though C comes after A in the alphabet, because it is capitalized, there is no sorting that is capable to be done. But this is why I'm calling it a_send email, because I am eventually going to have a B lesson, a C lesson, and so on. I am going to remove the boilerplate code. You can keep it if you want to. And I am going to create a function called send, capital E, email. I'm going to have an open parentheses. This function is merely for compilation, which means that I'm just creating it so that I can run some code. There are not going to be any arguments. If this was a function that we plan to use in a larger project, then we might put some arguments in here so that we could input variables that execute the same code over and over again. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to use curly brackets. I'm going to hit Enter twice. I'm going to add 2 slashes where I will be adding a comment. So I am going to say send the email. So that's what we're going to be learning today, is the fundamental way to send an email using AppScript. So we're going to hit enter, we're going to hit tab, and we're going to use the capital G Gmail app. So JavaScript, or Google AppScript, which is a variation of JavaScript, is case sensitive. So that means that you need to have that capital G and that capital A there, or it is not going to work. We are going to use the .send capital E email method, and we're going to have open parentheses. So in AppScript, you will get hints and abbreviated documentation. So within the send email method, we have a couple arguments here. The first is going to be the recipient, and that needs to be formatted in a string. So when data types need to be formatted as a string, that means we need to have either single quotes or double quotes around them. The second argument is the subject of the email, which also needs to be formatted as a string. And then the final argument is the body. So that's going to be what we are emailing to somebody. And then down here you can see that we have some example code. So you can see that they are sending it to mike@example.com, and the subject is current time. And then the body of the email is the time is, and then it's using some internal methods in order to get the time when the code ran. So when we hit down here, you can see that they're also showing you how to send an attachment using a Google Drive file. That's what we're going to be doing in the next portion of this lesson. So we are going to send an email. So we're going to hit enter within the parentheses, and I'm going to be using my email. That's the first argument. So I'm going to use single quotes, and I'm going to send this to mattbrigidi.dev@gmail.com. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a comma. So you can see each of these arguments need to be separated by a comma here. I'm going to hit enter because it's easier for me to read. I'm going to add single quotes, and I am going to say, this is how to send an email. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a comma. I'm going to hit enter, and now we are going to send an email. So I'm going to say, hello, this is the email body, regards, comma, Matt. So we're going to hit save, and now we're going to run our code. So we're going to review our permissions. This is just authorizing Google AppScript to send you email and to read your email. So this prompt that you're seeing here is just saying that Google has not verified the code that you're trying to run. So it wants to say to you, like, look, if you're not, like, if somebody gave you this code and you don't know what it does, we haven't verified that it's not malicious. But it is not malicious. So we can go to advanced, and we can go to our lesson. And you can see that this is just the name that we gave our AppScript project. And it's just saying that this project, because it's using Gmail app, has the ability to read, compose, and permanently delete all your email from Gmail. We are not going to be doing that, but it's just letting you know that that possibility exists if you allow authorization. So we're going to hit continue. We have now authorized the account, and our code completed without error. So I'm going to open up my Gmail, and you can see that I have a security alert in here from when we authorized the app. And then we also have this email that we sent with the same subject and the email body that we entered. Now, you may want to have line breaks in here. So I'm going to show you a little tip. So what you can do if you want to use just this standard, like if you don't want to use an HTML email, which is going to be another lesson in this series, What you could do is use I think this is the / and an N, and that will add a line break. So I'm going to do 2 of these, so that will have a space, and then I'm going to add 2 of them here, and then 1 of them here. And now when I run this, we'll go back to my Gmail, and you can see we have that email again, and now there is line spacing, which is how you might type an email if you're actually working in Gmail. So sending email with AppScript is pretty straightforward. You can see that you really only need 3 lines of code in here. There are more sophisticated things that you can do that we're going to be filling out in future lessons. So if you are interested in following along, check out the playlist on my channel page. It's also linked in the description. I also have plenty of other videos about email if you are looking to do more sophisticated things. We're going to continue by navigating to the Files menu, where we will add a new script file. I'm going to title mine b_send_attachment. And that's what we're going to be learning in this video. We're going to be learning how to send attachments using Gmail app. We're going to send 2 different types of attachments. The first is going to be a PDF that comes from a Google Sheet, and we're also going to be sending a CSV file. I'm going to begin by clearing out the boilerplate code and creating a new function called send E mail A attachment. Send email attachment. I'm going to have an open parentheses. I'm not going to be passing any arguments to this function. So I'm going to hit the right arrow, hit space, open up a set of curly brackets, hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment, and now we will access the Google Sheet that we want to be a PDF. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to declare a variable called drive file. And we're going to set that equal to D drive app dot get file by ID. We're going to open up parentheses. Get file by ID takes a single argument, which is a file ID set as a string, which means that we need to have single quotes or double quotes. I'm going to use single quotes. I'm going to hit the escape key. And now I'm going to go to my drive. So you can see I have the 2 file types here that I want to send as attachments. The way that you access a file ID, in the case of a Google Sheet, is you can open it up and you will go to this portion of the URL that comes after the /D. This is the identification number of this spreadsheet. So I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go back to my app script and I'm going to paste it in between my single quotes. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard twice. I'm going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice. And I'm going to hit shift and tab to realign my cursor. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment. And I am now going to access the CSV I want to send. I'm going to hit enter and tab. I'm going to declare a variable called drive C S V. I'm going to set that equal to drive app dot get file by ID. Open up the parentheses, add a single quote, hit the escape key, and now we're going to navigate back to our drive. So in instances of CSVs, it's a little bit more difficult to get the file ID because it just takes more clicks. So we're going to go over here and we're going to select the share button and we are going to copy the link. We're going to go back to our AppScript project. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard twice. I'm going to hit enter and we are going to paste. Now you can see that we have the file ID right here. So we're going to copy that and we're going to paste it in between the single quotes. We're going to delete that URL because we don't need it anymore. Go back to our line, add a semicolon, and hit enter twice. Shift tab to realign our cursor. 2 slashes for a comment, and now we are going to send the email. We're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to use Gmail app dot send email. We're going to open up our parentheses. Send email takes 3 primary arguments. The first is the recipient, so that's the person that you want to send it to. I'm going to use square brackets here. That allows you to add email addresses if you want to email more than one person, but you don't need the square brackets. If you're just doing one email, you can just do an email as a string. But the reason, again, that I have these square brackets is in the event that you want to send this to more than one person, all you have to do is separate the emails using a comma. Each email needs a single quote separated by a comma. You can send it to more than one person. I'm going to send mine to mattbrigidi.dev@gmail.com. Hit the right arrow on my keyboard twice. I'm going to add a comma and move on to the second argument. I'm going to hit enter, hit escape. This is the subject of the email, so I will use single quotes and say, this email has an attachment. Hit the right arrow on my keyboard, add a comma, move to the fourth argument, which is the body of the email. So I'll add single quotes and say, this is the body of the email. Hit the right arrow on the keyboard, add a comma, hit enter, hit escape. This is where we're going to learn something new. So to add an attachment using the send email method, you're going to need to use curly brackets. I'm going to hit enter just for readability, and you'll type in attachments. Add a colon, hit space. We're going to use square brackets so that we can send more than one attachment if we want to. We're going to begin by sending the drive file variable, which is the Google Sheets workbook. So what we're going to do is reference the drive file variable name, use .get capital A as, we're going to open up our parentheses. This allows us to establish our content type. So we are going to use MIME capital T type dot, and then we want to send this as a PDF. So we're going to do PDF. We're going to hit escape twice, hit save, and now we're going to try sending our email. So we're going to hit the run button. And if you have not already, you will have to authorize permissions for Drive app the same way that we had to authorize permissions for Gmail app. I had already authorized Drive app before recording this video. So all you need to do is just go through the process of allowing access so that AppScript can read from your drive. Once you've done that, you can navigate to your email, and you can see that I have received this email with an attachment, and you can see I now have that Google Sheets workbook saved as a PDF. So you can see here it started as a sheet, and now I have this PDF. Wonderful. So now I'm going to go back to my app script, and I'm going to go to the right of the parentheses for drive file, and I'm going to add a comma, and now we're going to reference drive CSV, that variable from line 7 up here. So now what we're going to do is we are going to send our CSV. So we will do the same thing where we will use .get capital A as, open parentheses, capital M, MIME capital T type dot all cap CSV. And we will save that, and we will hit run. Go back to my email, refresh. You can see I have a new email. Says this email has an attachment. This is the body of the email, and now you can see that I have my automated email from Form PDF, and then I have my NFL quarterback ranking CSV. We are going to resume by by learning how to send HTML emails. We are going to navigate to the Files menu where we will add a new script file. I am going to call my file C_0_send_HTML_email. I'm going to hit enter. We have now created a new script file, and you can tell because we have .gs at the end of the file. Now you can call your file whatever you want to. The reason that I use this naming convention is so that I could sort my files alphabetically as my project continues to grow. Next, we are going to add an HTML file. The name of this file will matter because you're going to have to use it in order to connect your HTML file to your script file so that you can send an email with HTML. I'm going to name mine C_1_email_template. I'm going to hit enter. Now you can see this file ends in .html, and instead of having Google script boilerplate, a function, we have HTML boilerplate. Now again, you can call yours whatever you want to. We are going to need to use it in our script file. We're going to begin by going back to the script file where we will create a function called send_HTML. You can call your function whatever you want to. Just make sure it's unique to your project. We're going to open up parentheses. We are not going to be passing any arguments to this function. So we're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard and we're going to add a space. We're going to open up a set of curly brackets and we're going to hit enter twice. We're going to begin our code by using 2 slashes so that we can add a comment that says connect to the HTML template. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to declare a variable using var. I'm going to call my variable HTML template. I'm going to set that equal to capital H, HTML, capital S, service. Google Apps Script is case sensitive, which means that you need to use uppercase letters when they are required, as well as use lowercase letters when they're required. So you need to make sure that HTML service has a capital H and a capital S. You'll notice that you also get this autocomplete option here, where you can just hit enter and it will complete it for you. We're going to use the dot method so that we can use the create template from file. We're going to open up parentheses. The documentation here shows that it creates a new HTML template object from a file in the code editor, which is precisely what we have over here when we created our HTML file. The create template from file method requires a single argument, which is a string. So you're going to need the name of your HTML file from your code editor structured as a string. So you'll notice that this does not have the .html at the end. So what we're going to do is add single quotes inside of our parentheses. That way, whatever we enter in there is structured as a string. And then we're going to navigate over to our file directory. And when you hover over your HTML file, you'll see that you have these 3 vertical dots here. We're going to click on those, and we are going to select the rename option. You're going to copy the name of your HTML file to your clipboard, and then you're going to select in between the single quotes, and you're going to paste it. You are now referencing the name of your HTML file in the create template from file method. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard twice. We're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to align our cursor using shift and tab, and we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment where we will evaluate the content of the HTML template. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to declare another variable using var. You can call this whatever you want to. I'm going to call it temp. I'm going to set it equal to HTML template. And now you'll notice we are referencing the variable on line 4, so it went from being grayed out, the way that temp is, to being in black. We're going to use the dot method, where we will use the evaluate function. And you can see we don't need to enter anything into evaluate. We just need to use it. Additionally, we're going to have to chain together the get content method. So we're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, use dot get capital C content. I'm going to use the open parentheses in here. And now we have successfully connected our HTML file to a variable that we can use in our script. So effectively what's happening here is we are using the HTML service in order to create a template from our file that is being evaluated so that we can get the content of it, which is stored in this variable on line 7, which I have called temp, and you can call whatever you want to. We're going to use the semicolon. We're going to hit enter twice, and we are going to use shift and tab to align our cursor. And now we are going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we will send an HTML email. We're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to use Gmail app.send email. So this is what we've been using throughout this lesson thus far. We're going to open up a set of parentheses. I'm going to hit enter for readability. And now you can see the documentation here requires us to put in 3 arguments at minimum. The first argument is the recipient. That is the email address that you want to send your email to. So you can see in the documentation here that you're using single quotes and then an email address. I'm going to recommend that you use square brackets. So I'm going to hit escape just so that documentation is removed from my screen. I'm going to use square brackets. The reason that you should use square brackets, or you would consider using square brackets, is if you want to send an email to more than one address. So for example, I'm going to enter in single quotes, and then I'm going to use mattbrigidi.dev@gmail.com. Now, in the event that I wanted to add another email, I'm going to hit the right arrow, and then I can separate it using a comma, and I can enter in matt@gmail.com. This will allow you, if you want to send it to 3 or 4 or 5, 6, however many people you want to, you have the ability to do so. So you need square brackets to do that. But if you just want to send it to one email, you can still have the square brackets there, and it will send just the same. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a comma. I'm going to hit enter. And now we're moving on to the second argument of send email, which is the subject. It needs to be structured as a string, which means you need to use single quotes or double quotes. So I'm going to call this email, this is an HTML email. I hit the right arrow on my keyboard, add a comment, comma, my apologies, hit enter. And now we are moving on to the third argument, which is the body. I'm going to hit escape. Now, we want to use an HTML body, but we still need to put something here as part of the function. So what I like to do is say this email contains HTML. If you see this, then it did not load. So this acts as an error message effectively, so that if your HTML body does not load, the individual knows that something was supposed to be there, and then you can work it out after you identify that it didn't send correctly. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a comma. And now that we've added a comma after our 3 required inputs, you can see that we have this optional input for options. And this is structured as an object. So if we scroll down in the documentation here, you can see that then we have this opportunity to use curly brackets in order to use things like attachments, and then to give a name to the attachment if you want to. So what we're going to do is hit enter, and we're going to use those curly brackets. I'm going to hit escape for readability purposes. I'm going to hit enter, and now we're going to use HTML capital B body colon. Now again, Google Apps Script is case sensitive, so it needs to be all lowercase HTML capital B body. We're going to hit space, and we're going to reference the name of our variable on line 7. So whatever is referencing the evaluate.getContent, you want to enter that name down here. So I'm going to type in temp, which is short for template. I'm going to hit escape, and now I have structured my function in order to access the content of whatever is in the HTML template. So you can see over here that this is saying that we have not saved our file yet. So I'm going to select Save Project to Drive. We now have no more, the yellow circle has gone away, and we're going to move on to the second step of our project, which is constructing an HTML email. So we're going to select our HTML file, and we're just going to use some basic HTML here. This lesson is not going to go into the nuances of all the things that you can do with HTML. I'm going to link up some resources in the description of this video if you would like to learn more. But for our purposes, we're just going to create a p tag. So we're going to open up an opening p tag and a closing p tag. I'm going to say hello, comma, and then I'm going to add another set of p tags in here. I'm going to hit enter and say this is an HTML email. I'm going to hit enter, add another p tag, and say enter. I hope you are seeing this! Exclamation point. Great. So this is just some basic HTML that is going to result in 3 lines, which should say, hello, this is an HTML email. I hope you are seeing this. Now, HTML does not recognize these spaces here, so it doesn't matter. I did that for readability purposes, but you can add as many spaces as you want to, and it's not going to pick it up. It requires tags in order to structure the output that you see on screen. So once you're done messing around with the HTML and you have your email structured the way that you want to, we're going to go back to our script file and we're going to hit run. And you can see that it completed immediately. So I'm going to go to my email and you can see that I have a new email. It's from me. It's called This is an HTML email. And you can see, hello, this is an HTML email. I hope you're seeing this. So I have successfully sent my HTML email. And you notice that even though I have all these spaces in here, it only added a single line because HTML requires tags in order to structure what you see on screen. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we will be creating a new script file. I'm going to call this D_0_ HTML_signature. I'm going to hit enter. That's going to be the focus of this lesson. We will be adding an HTML signature to our email along with an inline image. So because we're sending an HTML email, we are also going to be adding an HTML file to our project directory. I'm going to call this D_1_HTML_sig. I'm going to hit enter. Now the reason that I use D underscore and then a number is because of my project directory. I want to keep this organized so that each file appears in the order with which I have added them to the directory. You can call yours whatever you want to. Generally speaking, the name of the files do not matter. However, when you are referencing a file, such as we will be doing in this lesson, where we will be referencing the name of the HTML file so that we can connect it to our Google script, it does matter to some extent. But we'll touch on that in a little bit. We're going to navigate to our script file, and we are going to clear out the boilerplate code. You can keep it if you want to. But I'm going to begin by creating a new function called send HTML S signature. I'm going to use an open parentheses. I will not be passing any arguments into this function. We are merely using it so that we can compile our code. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to add a set of curly brackets, and I'm going to hit enter twice. The first thing I'm going to do is add 2 slashes for a comment. I'm going to say connect to the HTML template. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I'm going to declare a variable. So I'm going to use var. The name that I want to use will be HTML T template. I'm going to set that equal to H HTML S service. Google Apps Script is case sensitive, so you need to make sure that the H is capitalized and the S is capitalized. We're going to use .create capital T, template, capital F, from, capital F, file. We're going to have an open parentheses. Create template from file takes a single argument which needs to be structured as a string, which means that you need to use single quotes or double quotes. I'm going to use single quotes, and this is where we will be referencing the name of our HTML file. The way that I recommend doing that is by going to your file directory and hovering over your HTML file. Once you do that, you'll see these 3 vertical dots here. Select them and then select rename. We're going to copy the name that we used and then paste it in between the single quotes. We are now referencing our HTML file so that we can use it in our application. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard twice, add a semicolon, hit enter twice, align our cursor using Shift and Tab. We're moving on to the second step of our function. So we're going to add another set of slashes so that we can add a comment where we will evaluate the content of the HTML template. We're going to hit enter, tab, declare another variable, which I'm going to call temp. I'm going to set that equal to whatever the name of the variable that is referencing the HTML service is. So in my case, I use the variable name of HTML template. You can call this whatever you want to, but whatever you called it is what you should be referencing on line 7. So I'm going to start typing out HTML template. I get the autocorrect. You can see that instead of being grayed out, it is now black, which means that it is being referenced within your project file. We are going to use .evaluate, open up a set of parentheses. We do not require an argument, so we're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, and then we are going to use .get, capital C, content. Open up a set of parentheses. This also does not require an argument, so we are going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, add a semicolon. So what we have done is we have established a connection to an HTML file using HTML service.createTemplate from file, which is being referenced in our HTML template variable. We then evaluated the content of that file using HTML template.evaluate.getContent, and that is all stored within our temp variable. This has connected our script file to our HTML file so that we can use it when we run the function sendHTML signature. Because we want to include an inline image in our signature, we are going to have to collect our image. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to align our cursor using Shift and Tab. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and now we will access the image for our signature. We're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to declare a variable called drive, capital I, image, and we're going to set that equal to drive app dot get, capital F, file, capital B, by, capital ID. We're going to use open parentheses. Now, for this lesson, we are going to be using an image that is stored on your Google Drive. So if you do not have an image on your drive at this time, pause the video and upload it as a JPEG, a PNG, whatever you want to, but just make sure that you have an image on your drive. The getFileById method requires that we get the ID of the file and structure it as a string within our code. That means we need to use single quotes or double quotes. So I'm going to add single quotes, and then I am going to go to my Google Drive in order to get the ID so that we can access our image. So within Google Drive, you can see that I have a few things here. I have a couple folders, a spreadsheet, a CSV file, and then a PNG file. So the way that you can get the ID of a file from Drive is you can hit share and you can copy the link and then you can go back to AppScript. I'm going to click to the right of my code on line 10. I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to paste the share link that I have in there. And this is the most direct way to get the ID. So we're just going to copy the portion of the URL that comes after the /d/, and then we can paste that inside of get file by ID and then delete the share link. Now, there are some instances where, like, for example, if I click on this image here, you can see that the URL does not provide us with the file ID, which is why I recommend clicking on the share link here and then just copying the link and accessing the ID that way. But you'll notice when I open up this spreadsheet, it does have the ID in the URL, so you could just copy it. So it's really, a couple different ways that you can go about getting the ID, but the ID always appears in the same place. Cool. So we are going to resume our lesson by going to the end of line 10, hit enter twice, align our cursor using Shift and Tab, add 2 slashes, and now we will send an HTML email. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we will reference the Gmail app, and then we will do .send capital E email, and we will open up a set of parentheses. I'm going to hit enter for readability. As we've noted in other lessons in this series, send email requires 3 arguments, and then there is a 4th argument for additional options. So the first argument is the recipient, the person that you want to send the email to, and that needs to be structured as a string. So what I recommend doing is adding square brackets. This will allow you to email more than one person if you need to. So I'm going to email mattbrigidi.dev@gmail.com. And then if I wanted to, I could add a second email address by adding a comma and then adding another set of single quotes. So I'll do mattbrigidi.dev +0 @gmail.com. And for those of you who are looking to work on more development things for Gmail app, a way to send emails to more than one address is using this plus and then some additional number or string or what have you, and then you can send an email to your email address, but multiple email addresses. So that'll help you understand, the limitations of Gmail app, like you can only send to 50 email addresses, so on and so forth. So that's just like a little tip if you are looking to do more email exploration. We're going to go to the end of the line. We're going to add a comma after our square bracket. We're going to hit enter. And now we're going to move to the second argument, which is the subject of our email. So we're going to say, single quotes, this email has a signature. We're going to go to the end of the line. We're going to add a comma. We're going to hit enter. And now we have to add a body. Now, in this case, we're going to be using an HTML file to populate our body. But you still need to put something in place of this argument, or else your email will not send. So what I like to do is just say, this email contains HTML. Please contact me if it did not populate. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, add a comma, hit enter, and now we are going to use the 4th argument of the send email function, which is the options. So options need to be structured within curly brackets. So we're going to add a set of curly brackets and we're going to hit enter. I'm just doing this for readability purposes. This way you can, I find it helpful to kind of just scan files one line at a time so that when I'm looking to correct bugs, it's easier to triangulate where my issues are. So the first thing that we're going to do is connect to our HTML template. So we are going to need to reference the temp variable or whatever you used on line 7 that is referencing your HTML service connection. So we will enter in the command HTML capital B body with a colon. And then we are going to enter in whatever the name of the variable on line 7 is. So I use temp, so I will use HTML:temp. And now I am connected to my HTML file, and that will populate the body of my email. Next, we are going to add a comma, and we are going to hit enter. We are going to be using an inline image, so we will enter in inline, capital I, images. We're going to add a colon. Now, I just want to note real quick, again, the Google Apps Script files are case sensitive. Google Apps Script language is case sensitive. So you'll notice that I used HTML capital B body, and then I used inline capital I images. You need to use that syntax or it will not work. So we are going to hit space. Now, in addition to referencing the inline images command, you need to use another set of curly brackets. So we're going to add those in there, and then I'm going to hit enter again for readability. You don't have to hit enter if you find the other way to be easier to see. We need to add another key value pair. So that's what's happening here. When you're using curly brackets, you have a key, which in this case is HTML body, and then its pair is temp. So what we are going to do is name our image so that we can reference it in our HTML. So I'm going to call this image and add a colon, and then I'm going to reference drive, capital I, image. Now, the reason I'm using drive image is because that's the name that I picked for line 10. So you could call this whatever you want to, right? You can see that's what I'm referencing here. Additionally, you can call this whatever you want to. This is the word that you're going to be using once we go over to the HTML portion of our code so that we can connect our HTML or our image to the HTML file from the script file. So there's a lot of back and forth going here so that you have this, this collaboration of the script file and the HTML file. So we are using the word image to reference drive image, which we then need to use the dot get capital A as, and then we're going to use open parentheses. We need to convert this image into an image within the file structure. So we're going to use the word mime with a capital M, capital T, type dot PNG. So we have now established that drive image is a PNG image file. So you could also use JPEG. It doesn't matter. I just use PNG because that's what the file was that I was using. Cool. So we've completed the first portion of this lesson, which is we have written our Google script logic in order to send the email. Now we need to compose an HTML email. So we are going to go to our HTML file, and we're just going to add some paragraphs in here so that we have some, fake content. So our first P tag is just going to say hello. We're going to hit enter. We're going to add another set of P tags, and we are going to say this email has a signature. And then we are going to add another P tag and just say, I hope you like it. So again, I'm not going to go too deep into HTML, but we are going to be using a little bit of some advanced things in here. So, if you want to learn more about it, I'm going to have a link in the description. But these are just some basic stuff here where these P tags are just going to create single lines. So you can see that we're just saying, hello, this email has a signature. I hope you like it. So now I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to add in an HR tag. This HR tag adds a line. So it's just going to be a bar which will separate our signature. So we're going to hit enter, and we're going to add a P tag for a new line, and we're going to hit enter. And then I'm going to add a B tag, which will add some, it will make the text bold. So I'm going to add my name, and a vertical bar and my title. Okay, and then I'm going to add another p tag, and I will add my phone number. This is my real phone number, by the way. Cool. And now we are going to be adding our inline image. So we will use an opening tag where we'll say IMG, and then we will use src is equal to, and then we're going to use double quotes, and we're going to do CID with a colon, and then we're going to type image because that's the name of our image. And then we're going to use an n/ and a closing or a greater than sign. Cool, so we're going to hit save, and we're going to go back to our script file, and now we're going to try and run our code. Cool, so no errors yet. I'm going to refresh my email. You can see I have an email that says this email has a signature, and we open it up and check it out. We now have hello, this email has a signature, I hope you like it, and then it has that line and my name and my phone number. But the only problem is that this email is massive, or this image is massive, and that's because we didn't style it at all. So what we're going to do now is go back to our HTML file, and we're going to add some very, very basic styling. So we are going to go into the head portion. So you can see the head is here. It has a head tag, which is directly under HTML. We're going to go under base target equals underscore top. We're going to add some style tags. We'll hit enter, and we're going to reference IMG because that is the tag that we want to add style elements to. So we'll hit space, add curly brackets, hit enter. We're going to reference height, add a colon, and we're going to set that to auto, add a semicolon, hit enter, and we'll reference width, and we'll set that to 155px, add a semicolon, hit save, go back to our script file, hit run, open up my email, and now you can see that we have a more reasonably sized image in here so that we can have this signature with our name, our phone number, and an image. Cool, so to recap, we learned how to send an HTML file using an inline image. We used HTML service in order to connect to our HTML file. We used Drive app in order to get a file by ID. We used Gmail app's send email function in order to send an HTML email to two email addresses with an HTML body and an inline image, which we named image, and then we got the Drive file as a PNG using MIME type. Within our HTML file, we use style tags in order to change how the image appeared in our HTML email, and we did that by using an image tag where we referenced the source of CID and then the name that we gave to our image. We are going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we will add a new script file. We're going to call this e_send_bcc_cc and hit enter. We're going to clear out the boilerplate function, and we are going to create our own. So we're going to type in function, and then we are going to send cc. Yeah, that's fine. Add open parentheses, hit the right arrow on our keyboard, hit space, open up a set of curly brackets, hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment, and hit space. So the focus of this video is going to be pretty straightforward. We are going to learn how to send emails on BCC, blind carbon copy, and CC carbon copy. So all we're going to do is send an email. We're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to reference Gmail app.send capital E email, and we're going to open up a set of parentheses. Send email takes 3 mandatory arguments, which is the recipient or email address that you want to send an email to, the subject, and the body. So we're going to hit enter just for readability. I like to use square brackets for my first argument, which is the email that I am sending a message to. The reason for that is that you can comma separate them in order to email more than one person. So when you do this, they will see, or other people on the thread will see that they've received this email. So we're going to add single quotes. I'm going to use my email, mattrigedy.dev@gmail.com. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard and add a comma. Now I can use single quotes, and now I'm going to email mattrigedy plus 0@gmail.com. This is a nice little trick when I am, my apologies, I'm going to do mattrigedy.dev plus 0@gmail.com. So as I was saying, this is a nice little trick. When you use this plus and then something, it can be letters, it can be numbers, it can be letters and numbers, it doesn't matter. It allows you to create an alias where you can send emails to. So I really like this when I'm developing, because then I can test things like sending email to more than one account, or more than one address, I should say, and doing CC and BCC. Cool. So we're going to go to the end of our line. We're going to add a comment, and then we're going to go to the second argument, which is the subject. And it needs to be structured as a string. So we use single quotes. And I'm just going to say, this is an email test. Hit the right arrow on my keyboard, add a comma, hit enter. Now we are on the third mandatory argument, or the final mandatory argument, which is the body. So I'm just going to say this is a test. Cool. So I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, and I'm going to add a comma. When you do this, you move to the optional portion of the send email function, which is options. So if you want to learn more about the options that you have available to you, I'm going to link this up in the description. But this is the developer's documentation for the Gmail app, most specifically the send email method. So you can add attachments, which we've done in previous lessons. You can add an HTML body, which we've done in previous lessons. And you can add inline images, which we've done in previous lessons. So here we are going to use BCC and CC. So these two optional parameters will allow us to add a comma-separated list of email addresses that will be on CC or BC. Now, this documentation doesn't do a great job of outlining what comma-separated means. So for example, when you want to send an email to more than one email address, like I've done here, this is structured as an array or a list. So you use square brackets, and then you comma separate the strings, right? So you can see that this is the first string because it has a set of single quotes. This is the second string because it has a set of single quotes. That is not what you are going to use when using CC and BCC. So in order to access the options menu or the options parameters, you need to use curly brackets. So we're going to add in a set of curly brackets, and we're going to hit enter. We are going to be using BCC, so we are going to type out BCC and then add a colon. We're going to open up a set of single quotes. This is where we will be entering our comma-separated list of email addresses. So I'm going to enter in mattrigedy.dev plus 1@gmail.com, comma, mattrigedy.dev plus 2@gmail.com. So this is what they mean by comma-separated list, which you can see is different than what we are using up here. So it has to be one string of comma-separated values. The same thing is true for CC. So add a comma at the end of your single quotes, hit enter, add in CC, add a set of single quotes, and same thing. I'm going to do mattrigedy bridgety.dev plus, I forget what number I'm at, 4 at gmail.com, and then I'm going to add a comma, and oops, I missed 3. So we'll do mattbrigety.dev plus 3 at gmail.com. Cool. So don't use my email address, obviously, use yours, but feel free to send me emails if you have questions about this. So with that out of the way, we are going to hit run, and we don't get any errors, and we go to our inbox, and you can see that we got this is an email test, and then you can see all those emails have appeared up here. And when we open up the delivery, you can see that the email is from mattbrigety.dev at gmail.com, and then we have sent it to mattbrigety.dev at gmail, mattbrigety.dev plus 0. These are visible, but CC and or CC will also show up, but it will be shown as a carbon copy, and BCC will be will show up to us, but not to the recipients of the email. Now, the last thing that I will show you is just that you can change your name. So right now this appears as mattbrigety.dev at gmail.com. You could also add a comma here and then use name and do something like Matt Brigety. Oh, sorry, it has to be in single quotes. But you could add single quotes here and just do all caps Matt Brigety or whatever you want to. Hit run. And now you can see here it says mattbrigety.dev at gmail.com. And when we refresh, we have this new email, and you can see it is now sent from Matt Brigety. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that you can use from the advanced parameters in here. For example, if you work at an organization and you have a Google Workspace account, you can create a no reply email by just going in here, comma, no capital R reply, colon, and then just typing in true. And this will then keep people from replying to your email. I don't have a Workspace account. This is just a Gmail account. You can also add in reply to. You can change who it's from using aliases. Lots of really cool stuff. I'm not going to touch on it in this lesson, but if you would like to learn more, feel free to use my email. You have it here. If you want to continue following along with this set of lessons, I have a playlist linked in the description. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu. We're going to be adding another script file. I'm going to be calling this F_CC_attachment. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to clear out the boilerplate code, and I'm going to begin by writing a function, which we will be calling send CC attachment. We're going to have an open parentheses because we are not passing any arguments. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to hit space. We're going to open up a set of curly brackets. We're going to hit enter twice, and we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment. I'm going to hit space. Now, this lesson is going to build on the previous lesson of sending BCC and CC emails. We are going to learn how to add attachments to those emails. So we are going to begin by accessing the drive file that I want to attach. So I'm going to hit enter, and I'm going to declare a variable, and I am going to call this drive capital F file, and I'm going to set it equal to capital D drive app dot get capital F file capital B by capital ID. Get file by ID. We're going to open up a set of parentheses. Get file by ID requires a single argument, which is a drive file ID that is structured as a string. So we're going to need single quotes for that. I'm going to add those in now. I'm going to go to my drive, and I have a couple different file types already here. So if you don't have a file that that is ready, pause the video, find a sheet, a doc, CSV, an image, whatever it is. I'm going to be showing you how to attach CSV files and image files. So what I'm going to do is click on the share button here, and I'm going to copy the link. So the reason that I'm doing that is because when you are working with a CSV, you can see that it does not have a file ID in the URL in the preview mode. So you would have to open it up with something else, and I don't really want to do that. So by going over here and selecting share, I can get the link which will include the ID of the file. So I'm going to go back to AppScript. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard twice. I'm going to hit enter once, and then I'm going to paste the link that I copied. So regardless of file type, you will always find a Google Drive file ID after this portion of the URL. So you can see this is structured as drive.google.com/file/d. Typically, I believe Drive files have a URL that have a /d at some point, and that portion of the URL string in between these two slashes is your file ID. So I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to delete the URL because I don't need it anymore, and I'm going to paste the ID in between the get file by ID argument. Additionally, I'm going to add a little bit more specificity to my variable name. So because I'm going to be using two different file types, I'm going to delineate between them. So I'm going to do drive instead of file. I'm going to do drive all caps CSV. And you can call this whatever you want to. The variable names do not matter. They're merely a way to reference things. So feel free to use whatever names you want to. And I'm going to do my best to say that a line of code is what we are referencing. So in this case, line 4 has a name of drive CSV, and that is set equal to driveapp.getFileById. I'm going to hit enter twice, and then I'm going to align my cursor so that my comments are standardized. So I'm going to hit Shift Tab, and now you can see that my cursor lines up with line 3. I'm going to add 2 slashes for another comment, and I'm going to access the image on Drive that I want to attach. I'm going to hit enter and tab. I'm going to declare a variable of drive capital I image. And I'm going to set that equal to driveapp.getFileById, just as we did on line 4. Open up a set of parentheses, add a set of single quotes, go back to Drive. As you can see, when I click on this image, it does not have an ID in the URL. So I'm going to select share, copy link, go back to my script file, hit the right arrow on my keyboard twice, hit enter once, paste in the URL. Has the same exact URL structure, so I'm going to copy my file ID, delete my URL, and then paste the ID in between the 2 single quotes. So now you can see that we have 2 file types that are being accessed via Drive App. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard twice. I'm going to hit enter twice. I am going to align my cursor using Shift and Tab. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment. And now I am going to send an email with CC and BCC as well as attachments. I'm going to hit enter and tab. We're going to use Gmail app dot send capital E email, and we're going to open up a set of parentheses. We're going to hit enter. Send email has 3 mandatory arguments. The first argument is the recipient, which is the person that you want to send an email to. My recommendation, use square brackets. If you use square brackets, you can comma separate emails, and you can send an email to more than one person. So I'm going to use single quotes and do mattbrigdy.dev@gmail.com. Please use your own email or the email of the person that you want to send the message to. I'm also going to add a second email here because I want to show you the difference between how multiple emails are sent from the recipient argument, which is the first argument of send email, and how multiple emails need to be structured for CC and BCC because they are different. So we have a comma separated value here and then another set of single quotes. So I'm going to send it to mattbrigdy.dev +0 @gmail.com. So if I just wanted to send an email to one person, I could delete that second email and this structure would send the email. This structure is an array, which in some other languages is also known as a list. That's when you have comma separated values within a bracket. So you can use a single email or you can send to more than one email by comma separating the values and having each email within single quotes. The second argument of send email is the subject. So that also needs to have a single or double quotes. So we're going to say this has attachments. We're going to go to the right. And of course, you can write whatever you want to as your subject. I'm going to add a comma. The final mandatory argument is the body of the email. Now, as we discussed in previous lessons, you can send an HTML email if you want to, or you can type out the email within the body argument. So you could save it as a variable if you wanted to. It doesn't matter, but you have a couple options here. Regardless of what type you use, you do have to put something in the body field. So we're going to add single quotes here and say, this is the email body. Cool. So we are going to add a comma, and once you satisfy the three mandatory arguments, you get the options argument, which is a optional field. This is structured as an object, and you need to structure the options input as a dictionary or entered in as JSON, which means that we are going to use curly brackets. So I'm going to hit enter, and I am going to add curly brackets, and I'm going to hit enter. So if we want to use some of the options, there is documentation for them, but you'll notice that we're not getting any tips, right? We're not getting any like options that show up that we can use. So you do have to locate additional documentation to figure out what's available in here. So one option is CC. So you would enter in CC and then a colon, and then you can add single quotes. So for our purposes, we're going to send to 2 emails on CC. So we'll do mattbrigidi.dev+1@gmail.com. This would allow us to send this email on CC. Now, if I wanted to add another email address in here, I'm going to add a comma within the single set of quotes that we are using here. So regardless of whether it's single or double quotes, all of the CC emails need to be entered within those quotation marks, and they need to be separated by commas. So we're going to add mattbrigidi.dev+2@gmail.com. And this will allow us to send this email on CC to these 2 addresses. We're going to go to the right of our quotation marks, and we're going to add a comma, and we're going to hit enter. And we are still in the options argument here because we are inside of the curly brackets. So you can see we are inside the curly brackets. We are in the optional portion of our code. And now we are going to enter some emails that we want to send on BCC. So we're going to add BCC, we're going to add a colon, and we're going to hit space. And this is structured the same way as CC, where we need to have either single quotes or double quotes, and then we are going to enter our email addresses. So I'm going to enter in mattbrigidi.dev+3@gmail.com. I'm going to add a comma, and I'm going to add mattbrigidi.dev+4@gmail.com. So now when we send this email, we are going to have it go to mattbrigidi.dev and mattbrigidi.dev+0. Dev+1 and Dev+2 will be on CC, and Dev+3 and Dev+4 will be on BCC. Now you'll notice the difference between these 2 structures here. So when we look at our email recipients, they are comma-separated strings, whereas CC and BCC are not comma-separated strings, they are comma-separated. So they are existing within the same string, comma-separated. So that's an important difference between these 2, and if you're getting errors, that's a good place to check. Cool, so now we're going to move on to the final portion of our lesson here, where we are going to learn how to add attachments. So we're going to add a comma, we're going to hit enter, and we are going to use the attachments command, and then we're going to have a colon there. So we are going to add square brackets similar to how we treated recipient, because this will allow us to send more than one attachment. So the first attachment that we're going to be working with is drive CSV. So what you're going to have to do is use .get capital A as. You're going to open up a set of parentheses, and then you're going to have to define your content type. And in order to do this, you're going to have to use mime, so capital M mime, capital T type dot. And then this will allow you to start defining content types. So in this case, we're going to use capital CSV. I'm going to hit save, and now we're going to send our email to make sure all of these things work. So I'm going to hit run, and we have no errors. I'm going to go to my email. I'm going to refresh, and you can see I now have an email here that says this has attachments. And when we open up the structure of the email, you can see that we have, it's from maprigidity.dev, it is to maprigidity.dev and dev plus 0. Dev plus 1 and dev plus 2 are on CC. Dev plus 3, dev plus 4 are on BC. And you can see that we have our CSV attachment here available in the email. That's great. So we're going to go back to our script now. And the same way that we comma separated our recipients is the way that attachments work. So because we are using these square brackets here, we are establishing an attachments array, which means that we can have more than one attachment if we want to. So now we're going to use drive, capital I image. We're going to use dot get as, and we're going to open up a set of parentheses, and we are going to use capital M mime, capital T type dot. And now because this is an image, we can use any of these types. So we could do GIF, a JPEG, a PNG. We can also do Markdown if we wanted to. But because this is text, we're not going to do that. We are going to do dot PNG, and we are going to save it. We're going to hit run. We didn't get any errors, which is great. We're going to go back to our email, refresh it, and you can see now we have a PNG attachment as well as a CSV attachment. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we will be creating a new script file. You can call this file whatever you want to. I am going to use the prefix of G underscore. This is an organizational method that I employ. And then I am going to call this read underscore subjects and hit enter. This lesson is going to focus on how to read or scan all of the emails that are in your inbox. So we are going to use Gmail app to get our inbox threads, and then we are going to loop through the inbox in order to get the subject line and the message ID. This is going to be a base that we are going to use in subsequent lessons in order to organize the inbox. So I'm going to clear out my boilerplate function here. I'm going to begin by creating a function, and I'm going to call this read capital S subject. This function is merely for compiling code. So we are going to open up a set of parentheses, but we are not going to have any arguments. So we're going to leave it blank. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to hit space, and we're going to open up a set of curly brackets. I'm going to hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment. The first thing that we're going to do is access the Gmail library. So we're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to declare a variable so that we can reuse our access to Gmail app. So you can call this variable whatever you want to. I'm going to call it inbox. I'm going to have it set equal to capital G, Gmail app, capital A, app, dot get, capital I, inbox, capital T, threads. Google Apps Script is case sensitive, so you need to make sure that all of the capitalization is correct. We're going to have an open parentheses here. We don't need to enter any arguments, so we're going to leave it blank. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit enter twice, and then we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment. I'm going to say logging for transparency. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we are going to use capital L logger dot lowercase l log, open parentheses. And we are going to use logger.log to see what the output is of calling Gmail app.getInbox thread. So we are going to pass the variable name that we used on line 4. In my case, I used inbox. You can see I incorrectly wrote index, so let me change that real quick. Cool. So I wrote inbox. Now the reason that I noticed that error is if you pay attention to your variable name, inbox is currently referenced. So you see we have this box that indicates that this variable is being used somewhere else in the script. Additionally, you can see that when a variable is not in use, it will be grayed out similar to a comment message. So when I typed in index and I saw that this was grayed out, that was an immediate visual indication that I was not correctly scripting my code. So then once I change it from index to inbox, you can see that this now becomes more present and has a darker black hue that indicates that it's being used somewhere else. And then if you start to highlight it, you'll notice that anywhere that that word exists will become highlighted. Because this is not the same case, you can see that it is a lighter blue, whereas these two blues are darker to indicate that they are directly related to one another. Cool. So I'm going to save my script at this time. If you have not used Gmail app yet in your library, when you hit run, it is going to ask you to provide permissions. If you're working from a single lesson plan like I am with these previous lessons here, then you have already provided access. So if you have not provided access, pause the video and just kind of say like, yes, I'm into it. I allow access. You can use my credentials. You can read my email. I'm going to go ahead and hit run. And you can see that when you call get inbox threads, you are provided with an array of results. So you can see that we are getting Gmail thread, Gmail thread, Gmail thread, and so on. So you're not going to be able to say Gmail app.get inbox threads and then get like a list of like what your actual emails are. You're getting those objects. So what's happening is get inbox threads and Gmail app have other functions and methods that are available to you in order to interact with your inbox threads. In order to open up the possibility of using those options, we're going to have to loop through each one of these thread objects in order to access things like the subject line or like subsequent messages, first message, ID, all that type of stuff. So just so that you can kind of see it a little bit further, a good way to see what other actions are available to you is by using a dot method. So when we called Gmail app and we hit dot, we were provided with a whole host of actions that were available to us. When we try to use inbox, which is effectively an extension of Gmail app.get inbox threads, right? Like it's a more compact way to reference that code. We're limited with a more generic set of actions that show us that we can't interact with the output in the way that we potentially would like to. So one way that we can go about doing that is by using a for loop. So we're going to hit enter on a keyboard twice. We're going to hit shift tab in order to align our cursor. So you can see that is now aligned with this comment. I want it to be aligned with this comment here. So I'm going to do shift tab again. And now you can see that this is on a similar indentation level, which is really helpful for readability. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, hit space. And now we are going to iterate through the inbox threads. And we're going to do that by using a for loop. So I hit enter, I'm going to hit tab, I'm going to type for, open up a parentheses, and then I'm going to use a variable. You can use any variable that you want to. Typically people use I for iteration. So we're going to say I for I in, and then we're going to reference our variable name on line 4, which for me is inbox. We're saying for I in inbox, and this is in a parenthetical. You're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, hit space, and we're going to open up a set of curly brackets. We're going to hit enter once, and we are going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to access the subject line. I'm going to hit enter and tab. We're going to declare a variable. You can call this whatever you want to. I'm going to call mine subject, capital L, line. Now, the reason I'm calling it subject line is because there might be another thing called subject, and I don't want to have any type of conflict in my code where I'm referencing something that already does something else. So using subject line doesn't bring up any autocorrect or anything, so it's a good indication that it's an open word that can be used as a variable. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to set it equal to. We're going to reference our inbox variable, right? So that's here and that's here. We use square brackets, and then we are going to use our iterable, right? Whatever our iterable variable is here, for me it's I. So I'm going to say inbox square bracket I, and then I am going to use the dot. And now you can see that we have more actions that are specific to Gmail apps. So we have add label, create draft reply, create draft reply all, get first message subject. Get first message subject is what we want. Now, if you were curious about email generally, specifically Gmail app, feel free to pause the video and kind of scroll through this list and see all the things that you can do. I'm not going to touch on everything in this video series, but there might be things that you want to do that you could explore on your own. And of course, feel free to reach out in the comments section and say, hey, I want to learn how to do this thing. And I'm always happy to look into it. Feel free to email me, and happy to develop text lesson plans for my website. So just, check it out. A lot of this type of stuff is exploring and seeing what's possible. So for my purposes, I want to see the subject lines of my inbox so that I can start identifying some emails that I want to do something with. So I'm going to select get first message subject, and I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. So what happens here is we are going to get the email thread, right? So we're just going to get the first message from the email thread. Now, you'll notice that up here, get inbox threads gives you the ability to select different emails in the chain. So if you have, like a 50 email chain and you want to do something to email number 37, you're going to have to access that email directly from the get inbox threads portion. Down here, we are just getting like the very first message that was sent, the subject line. Now, I find this helpful because I think about things in terms of subject lines, and I don't do a ton of email work. A lot of my stuff is just like automating a message to someone else. But in this case, I'm trying to find all the messages in my email box, and the way that I would do that with my eyes is literally going to my inbox and just kind of scanning the list or searching for a subject. So that's what we're mimicking in this script here. So I'm going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and now we're going to do some logging. This is so that we can see what our output is to make sure it's working correctly. So we're going to use capital L logger.log again, and we are going to pass in whatever our variable on line 12 is. For me, that's subject line. We're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit save, and then we're going to run. Now, when we run it, we're going to get this execution log here, which you can now see is individually populating all of the subject lines from my inbox. So when we scroll all the way up here, you can see that it starts as Gmail thread, all of these objects here. And now once we loop through it, we are individually pulling out all of these emails here. So you can see the first thing is this has attachments, this is an email test. So I'm going to go to my inbox, open up everything else, and you can say this has attachments, this is an email test. So this is a really good indication that I have successfully gone through and extracted my emails. So one last thing that I want you to be aware of is that, yes, you can use the subject line. And I think that's stable for email because emails, correct me if I'm wrong, do not have an edit function. So you're not going to get an email from somebody that has a subject line on Monday of, hey, this is the subject line. And then on Wednesday, they're not going to edit it and be like, subject line, this is. So you're going to be able to use the subject line in order to search and filter and go through all your email messages. But another thing that you can do is access the email ID. So we're going to hit enter twice. We're going to hit Shift Tab to align our indentation. We're now on the logging indentation. We're going to do Shift Tab one more time to align the indentation with the subject line, which is exactly where we want to be. We're going to do 2 slashes for a comment, and now we are going to pull out the message ID. We're going to hit Enter and Tab, and we're going to declare a variable of message, capital ID, and we're going to set that equal to, and this is basically the same structure as what we did. We're going to reference whatever our variable name is that we are looping through. In my case, it's inbox. I'm going to use square brackets. Then we're going to reference our iterable variable, which in my case is I. And then we are going to hit the right arrow on a keyboard, do dot get capital ID, open up an empty parentheses, add a semicolon, hit enter once, enter twice, 2 slashes for a comment, and now we are going to add some logging. We're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to use capital L logger.log, open up the parentheses, and then we're going to reference whatever our variable is on line 18, which in my case is message ID. So now when we run our script, we are going to get our subject line followed by the email identification number. So let's scroll all the way to the top and we'll see this has attachments, and then we have an identification number of 195E 83FDE, blah, blah, blah. So this is another way that we can reference our emails is by using the identification number. So you can go, so if you're looking for one specific email, you might want to use the ID. For example, in my next lesson, I'm going to explore how to filter emails, so like how to search for an email. And there are several emails that I have that have the same subject line. So you can see this is an HTML email here. This is an HTML email. All of these emails I might want to bulk delete, right? This is how to send an email. So I might want to generically reference any email that has the subject line of this is how to send an email. Whereas if I tried to use their identification numbers, then I'd have to create an array or a list of IDs that I wanted to do things to. And, it just makes it more complicated to do. But with that in mind, I wanted to give you a couple different options, especially because generally speaking, in most circumstances, the message ID, the content ID, the universal ID, whatever, the identification number is the optimal way to manage things when you're scripting and when you're using AppScript. And that's because the identification numbers are not going to change unless they no longer exist. So you either have an ID or you do not. Whereas text-based things like names change. For example, my name is Matt Brigidi. That's what I go by. My legal name is Matthew Brigidi. You could have all caps Matthew Brigidi. You could have camel case where the first letter in each name is capitalized. You could have lowercase Matt, you could have uppercase B, you can have all these variations of how things change based upon the way that the thing is referenced by name in whatever the system is that you're using. If you have an identification number of 123, it will always be 123 until it no longer exists. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we'll be creating a new script file. You can call this file whatever you want to. I'm going to begin by using a prefix of H underscore followed by filter underscore email. I'm going to hit enter. Now the reason that I do this is so that I can sort my file directory alphabetically if I need to. The focus of today's lesson is going to be building on the read subject lesson, where we are going to collect all of the messages from our inbox. We're going to identify the message subject line and the message ID, and then we are going to filter our messages based on a specific subject line. I'm going to begin by clearing out the boilerplate code. You can keep it if you want to. I'm going to create a new function. So I'm going to type the word function, and I'm going to call it filter, capital E, email. I'm going to have an open parentheses. We are merely using this function in order to run our code, so we are not going to be using any input variables. Thus, we can keep the parentheses empty. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, and I'm going to hit space. I'm going to open up a set of curly brackets, and I'll hit the enter button 2 times. I'm going to add 2 slashes so that I can add a comment. We're going to begin by accessing the Gmail library. We're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to declare a variable, which you can use whatever name that you want to. I'm going to use the word inbox. I'm going to set that equal to capital G, Gmail app, capital A, app. I'm going to use a dot method, and then I'm going to use get, capital I, inbox, capital T, threads. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. We are not going to be using anything in the parentheses, so we can leave it blank. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, and we are going to use a semicolon. I'm going to hit the enter button twice, and then I'm going to align my cursor so that my indentation remains consistent throughout my project. So I'm going to do Shift Tab, and now I am lined up with my comment on line 3. I'm going to add 2 slashes for another comment, where we will be iterating through the inbox threads. I'm going to hit enter and tab. In the previous lesson, we saw through logging out the variable on line 4 that Gmail app.getInbox threads produces an array or a list of objects, which is represented by the word Gmail threads. So when you do that, you can't get the names or the messages or the IDs or anything like that. You need to iterate through each of them and then individually pull out the information that you want. We're going to do so by using a for loop. So we're going to write the word for. We're going to open up a set of parentheses. We're going to use a variable to represent our iterable. Typically, the letter I is used in your for loop. I stands for iterable, but you can use whatever variable you want to. I'm going to say for I space in space, and then you're going to reference whatever name you've used on line 4. So in my case, I use the word inbox, and you'll notice when I type the word inbox, the grayed out variable name now is more prominently visible with black text color. So look, I delete the X, you can see it's grayed out. I add the X, and I am using that name, and it now appears. Additionally, if you highlight it, you'll see that the word inbox has some type of highlight throughout the script, but the direct reference has a darker blue. This is a good way for you to kind of check on the fly if the words that you're using, the syntax that you're using in your script is aligning with your intention. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard twice or one time, and we're going to go on the outside of the parentheses. We're going to hit space, and we're going to open up a set of curly brackets. We're going to hit enter once, and now we are going to add 2 slashes for a comment where we will access the subject line. We're going to hit enter and tab. I'm going to declare a variable of subject line. I'm going to set that equal to inbox square bracket, and then we're going to use whatever the iteration variable is. In my case, it's the letter I. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, and we're going to hit dot. We now have access to a bunch of native methods and functions within Gmail app. If you're curious in doing some additional development work, I recommend kind of, exploring this and seeing all the things that are in here, because it might align with a project that you want to pursue. For my purposes, I want all of the email threads in my inbox. So because I want to get something, typically that means you'll have a get command, right? So you can see that once I start typing get, I get all of these things, right? I get first message, subject line, I get ID, get labels, get message count, get permalink, get last message date, all that type of stuff. So for my purposes, though, I'm going to use get, capital F first, capital M message, capital S subject. I'm going to have an open parentheses. I don't need to use anything within those parentheses, so I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard and add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment, and now I'm going to log it. I'm going to hit enter and tab, capital L, logger.log, open parentheses, and then whatever the variable on line 9 is called. So for me, it's called subject, capital L, line. I hit the right arrow on my keyboard, add a semicolon, and I'm going to hit run. Sorry, the reason that this happened was because I had not saved my project to Drive, and I had changed the function name that I had there. So check it out. On line 1, I have the word filter, capital E, email, and the error message I'm getting is saying attempted to execute my capital F function, but it was deleted. So what happened was I changed the function, but the name up here was still trying to call my function, and I got an error. So if you're getting this error, it's because you changed the function name and did not save it. My apologies for not denoting that earlier. So I'm just going to hit run, and now it will run. Now, I've been using Gmail app throughout this project. So all of the videos in this lesson have already been using Gmail app. So I gave it permission to access my Gmail. If you got a prompt that is asking you to give permission, allow permission, go to advanced, and allow all the access to it. Google is telling you that you have an unverified app because it has not been submitted to Google for review. So they are merely saying to you that, look, if you run this code, you are allowing access to your Gmail. Is it what you really want to do? We are not going to be doing anything malicious. There is nothing that anybody can see. This is merely you accessing your own email. So if you are having that, feel free to pause the video, go through all that type of stuff, and then resume. We have successfully completed my extraction of all of my email subject lines. Now, a caveat that I should have said in the first video about this, and I'll say now, is if you have thousands of emails, this is going to take a really long time. So if you're getting output and it looks like emails that are in your inbox, you might want to stop it because you don't want to go through everything. This is merely just to make sure the code works. So I'm going to show you this. My first email subject is this has attachments. This is an email test. So when I open up everything else, you can see this has attachments. This is an email test. So it's working as expected. So I'm going to close this out. Now, if you are experiencing an elongated extraction of all your subject lines and you want to hit stop and you just want to drill down into a specific message, let's transition to that portion of the lesson, right? So for my purposes, I have several emails that say this is an HTML email. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy that subject line. You don't have to do this. You can do something else, right? Like you could already have an email in your inbox that you want to filter to. So feel free to collect the name of that message. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to hit shift tab to align the indentation of our script. So you can see we're now lined up with logger. I'm going to hit shift tab again. And now I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, where we will add a conditional for the email we want. So we're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to use an if statement. We're going to open up a parenthetical where we are going to define the condition that we want the if to return. So the first argument is the input. In this case, we're going to be using our subject line variable or whatever variable name you used on line 9. So I'm going to type subject line space double equal signs. Now, the reason that you have to use double equal signs is because within Google Apps Script, the equal sign is how you denote, how you define a name, right? So when you say inbox equals Gmail app.get inbox threads, you are defining what inbox is. In the case of our if statement, we are trying to say if something is, not defining it as. So equals equals says that subject line is equal to whatever we input. So we're going to hit space and we're going to add single quotes because I'm going to be pasting in text. So I'm going to paste in if subject line is equal to this is an HTML email. We now have a single condition. If also allows you to add and, or, and some other ways to have additional conditions in there. I have a tutorial on all the ways that you can use if that I'll link up in the description. We are not going to focus on that. We are only going to have a single condition for this example. So I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard twice. I'm going to hit space, and I'm going to open up a set of curly brackets where we can define what we want to have happen if the condition is met. In this case, if the subject line is equal to this is an HTML email. I'm going to hit enter twice, and I am going to add a variable where I am going to get the, you know what, we're going to just log the subject line. I'm going to hit enter and tab. So I set a variable, but we're going to use capital L logger dot log, and we'll do subject line, and we'll add a semicolon. Actually, you know what we're going to have to do? We're going to have to use inbox square bracket I dot, you know what, let's just get the messages. Get capital M messages, and we'll have open parentheses like that. So I'm going to hit save, and I am going to run. Okay, you know what, I'm going to stop that because we have all those subject lines too. So I'm going to comment out log. So I'm going to highlight lines 12 and 11. I'm going to max, so I'm going to hit command slash, and then it comments all that out. So that's just going to help with our execution log. So let me just kind of say, like, look, we have, this has attachments. That's because that's the logging from line 12 here that is pulling out the subject line. And then as we get down a little bit further, you can see that this is an HTML email, and then we're getting this Gmail message. And then we go down a little bit further and we get, this is an HTML email, and we're getting a Gmail message. So it's working well, but we are not getting the contents of the message. And the reason for that is because get messages is also an object, the same way that our subject line is an object. So to make this a little bit easier, let's do get first message subject with an open parentheses. So I'm going to hit save and run. And now you can see that we are only getting emails that say this is an HTML email. And the reason that this is continuing to run is because it is continuing to go through our inbox. Cool, now it's completed. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we will add a new script file. You can call this file whatever you want to. I'm going to add the prefix of I and an underscore in order to align with the taxonomy of my directory. I do this so that if I need to sort my files, I can. I'm going to call this read underscore email underscore body. I'm going to hit enter. The focus of this video will be building upon the previous two lessons where we learned how to read the subject line of every message in our inbox and then to filter those messages based upon the subject line. Our aspiration today is to get the body of the email message. So I'm going to begin by removing the boilerplate code and typing in the word function. I'm going to be building out a function called read, capital E, email, capital B, body. You can call your function whatever you want to. I'm going to add an open parentheses. This function is being created with the sole purpose of running our code. We are not going to have any input variables, so we don't need to add anything in between the parentheses. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, space, add a set of curly brackets, hit enter twice. Add 2 slashes so that we can add a comment. Now at this time, I just want to note that I still have the boilerplate my function up here, as well as a yellow circle that indicates that my file has not been saved. We also have the unsaved changes prompt up top here. So if I hit run, it would attempt to run a function called my function. And because I don't have a function called my function, I'm going to get an error message. So in order to avoid that, I am going to save my project. You can see it has been saved to my drive. That yellow circle is gone, and now the read email body function is available to be run. We're going to begin by accessing the Gmail app library. We're going to hit Enter and Tab. In order to do that, we are going to declare a variable so that we can consistently connect to Gmail app. So we're going to type out the word var, and then you can use any word you want to establish that connection. I'm going to use the word inbox. I'm going to hit space and equal, and then I'm going to hit space. I'm going to type capital G, Gmail, capital A, app, Gmail app, dot. And then this opens up a bunch of methods and functions that I can use in order to interact with Gmail app. Because I want to get all of the threads from my inbox, I'm going to use the get command. And now you can see that I got a bunch of stuff here. And I am going to get inbox threads, capital I, capital T. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. I'm not going to be passing any arguments to this method, so I'm just going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, and I'll be adding a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice, and I'm going to want to align my cursor with my comment on line 3 so that the indentation throughout my project is uniform. So I'm going to hit Shift Tab, and now you can see that the indentation is aligned. I'm going to add 2 slashes for another comment. The Gmail app .get inbox threads returns an array or list of Gmail thread objects. So if you just tried to log out inbox, which we've done in previous videos, you're just going to see a list of threads. So in order to engage with each thread in your inbox, you have to loop through them in order to get the subject line, get the ID, get the messages, all that type of stuff. So we are going to loop through our inbox. I'm going to hit Enter and Tab. I'm going to use a for loop. So I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. So I typed the word for, and then I opened up parentheses so that I can establish logic. So we need a variable in order to loop. So I'm going to use the letter I. This is very common when you're using for loops. I is short for iterator, which is what we are doing with our inbox variable. So we're going to say for I space in space, and then you're going to use whatever the name is for your variable on line 4. So because I used the word inbox, I am going to type inbox there. So we have for I in inbox. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard and go to the right of the parentheses. I'm going to hit space, and I'm going to add a set of curly brackets. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and now I'm going to extract the subject line. I'm going to hit enter and space. So because I don't want every message in my inbox, I am going to create a variable so that I can get the subject line from each message so that I can declare what messages I want to extract the email body from. So we're going to use the var keyword, and we're going to hit space, and I'm going to create a variable called subject line. I'm going to set that equal to inbox square bracket I. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I am going to hit dot, and then I am going to say get first message subject, and I'm going to use an open parentheses. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, and I am going to add a semicolon. This is going to result in every subject line populating into my loop. I'm going to hit enter twice. I am going to hit Shift Tab to align the indentation of my cursor with extract the subject line. And now I am going to add another comment, so enter 2 slashes. And then we are going to establish a conditional for the messages we want. I'm going to hit enter and tab. I'm going to use the word if, and I'm going to open up parentheses. So I know the subject line that I want to extract. So I am going to establish some logic here where I am going to use the variable on line 10, in this case subject line, and I am going to use double equal signs. as we mentioned in the previous lesson, when you use equal sign, you are defining, you are declaring that something represents something. So the word subject line represents inbox square bracket I dot get first message subject. So when you use equal sign, it compares it. So it will see if the subject line is the same thing as what's on the other side of the double equal signs. So if you only use one equal sign, then you are effectively declaring that this line 13 subject line is equal to something, meaning it represents it rather than being compared to it. I am going to be comparing text. So I'm going to be using a single quote here. So in order for me to identify the subject line that I want, I'm going to go pick an email from my inbox. So you can do this if you want to. So you can see I have a lot of emails here. So I'm going to pull up this. This is a CSV. So I'm just going to type that in here and I'm going to say this is a CSV. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard twice, hit space, and I'm going to open up a set of curly brackets. And now this is going to define what happens if the subject line is equal to this is a CSV. So I'm going to hit enter once. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and I am going to declare a message variable. So I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I'm going to use the var keyword, and I'm going to say message is equal to, and then we're going to have to use our variable from the for loop. Because if we try to use subject line, it will not allow us to open up another set of Gmail app options. So check it out. If I type in subject line to use dot, I'm getting all of these like options and these functions in order to generically engage with something. When in actuality, I want to read the message from my inbox. So I'm going to use inbox square bracket I. I'm going to go to the right of it. I'm going to use dot, and now you can see I have the ability to get the ID or get labels or get messages or get message count. We are going to use dot get capital B body. Oh no, sorry, we're going to use get messages. And we're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard and we're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment. And we are going to log the message. So we're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to do capital L logger.log, and we're going to open up a set of parentheses, and we are going to pass the message variable. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit save, and then we are going to run. So if this is the first time that you have tried using Gmail app, then you might be being asked to authorize permissions. So if so, it'll say that Google has not verified the app. It will ask if you want to continue, and then you'll go to advanced options, and you will allow this script to read your email. So the reason that it says it has such aggressive messaging is because Google has not authorized your app. So it just doesn't know what the code is doing. So it's saying, make sure you know what this code is doing. We're not doing anything malicious in here, so feel free to allow access. But of course, always be cautious about running code if you don't know what it does. So the output of our logging statement here is a Gmail message, but you can see that this is an object. We are not actually getting the content of the message. So similarly to how we had to engage with inbox, we are going to have to loop through these messages in order to get the body of it. Well, we don't have to loop through it, but if you are using more than one email and there's more than one message, then you are going to have to do that. So for our purposes, we are going to go to the right of line 18, and we're going to hit enter twice. We're going to hit shift tab to align our cursor, and then we're going to hit shift tab to align our cursor again so that we are aligned with the comment on line 14. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to loop through the message variable. I'm going to hit enter and tab. Now, let's not do the loop actually. Let's just do logger.log, and we're going to do message dot. Okay, no, we do have to do that. So we are going to do 2 slashes, loop through the messages, hit enter and tab, and we're going to use for. So we're going to do another loop, and we're going to open up a set of parentheses. But we don't want to use the same variable because we are inside of a loop right now. So I is followed by J, so we'll use the letter J, and we will say for J in message. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. Right arrow on our keyboard again, hit space, open a set of curly brackets, hit enter once, add 2 slashes for a comment, hit space, and we will log for transparency. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to do logger.log, open parentheses, message, square bracket J, dot get capital B body. We're going to open up a set of parentheses. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, and we are going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit save, and we are going to run. So we are currently going through all of our inbox threads, and you can see that we have identified a Gmail message, and we are getting a HTML output here. So you can see that we are getting, this is a CSV, and it says, hello, this is a CSV, and I'm going to try to download it. So let's go to our inbox, and we are going to find this is a CSV, and you can see that it says, hello, this is a CSV, and I'm going to try to download it. So we successfully extracted the body of the email, and the body of the email is structured as HTML. So when you're working with an email with HTML, you are going to get that HTML code. Now, in addition to get body, you could also use get plain body with an open parentheses, and this will log just the body outside of the HTML. So you can see that this gives you hello with the line break. This is a CSV, and I'm going to try to download it. So it really just depends on what your aspiration is when attempting to work with the body of an email. So one idea for what you might attempt to do is you might want to extract the subject line, the message, and any attachments from a particular type of email. And you might want to write it to a Google Sheet or something so that you have a log of all of these things. So what you would do is you would leverage the subject line that you are getting on line 10, the message body, so you could save this line 23 logger.log to a variable. In addition to get plain body, there's probably get attachments, right? So look at this. You could do get attachments, open parentheses, hit run. Oops, my apologies, it wasn't saved. Oh, I have an extra parentheses there. Sorry about that. So I'll run it, and we're going to give it a little bit of time here. And you can see we are getting the message and we are getting the attachment. So it looks like you're going to have to loop through the attachment again, the same way that we have to with messages. But this is just kind of a spitball idea here, right? Where it's like you loop through, you identify the email subject, you get the message, you get the attachments, you get any other data points that you want, and you can push it into a Google Sheet and have a log of this type of stuff. We are going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we will be creating a new script file. You can call this file whatever you want to. I'm going to call mine j_create_file_attachment. I'm going to hit enter. Now the reason that I use the letter J underscore is so that I can organize my file directory by alphabetical order. So if I want to change how my files appear on the left side of the screen over here, then I can just change the beginning of the file name, and then it will change the order that it appears. This lesson is going to focus on accessing an attachment from an email in my inbox and then creating a Google Drive file from it. So I have an email called This is a CSV that has a CSV attachment in the email. So we are going to access all of the emails in our inbox. We are going to identify the subject line. So we're going to search for This is a CSV. We are going to access the email body. so that we can collect the attachment. Once we have the attachment, we are going to create a file within this Google Drive folder. That way, we will have the CSV on our Google Drive, and then that opens up some other things that we could potentially want to do with it. We're going to begin by creating a function. So I'm going to remove the boilerplate code from the new file. You can keep it if you want to. So I'm going to type function, and then I'm going to give it a name, which will be attachment, capital E, email. You can call your function whatever you want to. We are going to have an open set of parentheses. This is where you can define arguments if you want this function to be applicable in a larger project. We are not going to be using this anywhere else besides this file. The sole purpose of this function is so that we can compile code. So we are not going to enter any arguments or variables or anything like that. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard once. I'm going to hit space. And I'm going to add a set of curly brackets so I can start developing some logic. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to add 2 slashes so that I can add a comment. The first thing that we're going to do is access the Gmail app. I'm going to hit enter and tab. We're going to declare a variable. You can call this variable whatever you want to. I'm going to use the word inbox, and I'm going to set it equal to capital G, Gmail, capital A, app. I'm going to use a period, and then I'm going to say get capital I inbox threads. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses, but I am not going to be passing any arguments to this method, so I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard and add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, where I will add some logging for transparency. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I'm going to use capital L logger.log. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses, and I'm going to pass the variable name on line 4. So I use the word inbox on line 4. That's what I'm going to enter in between the parentheses of my logger.log. If you use the different name, that's where you'll type it. The reason that we're doing this is so that we can see what the output is when we use the Gmail app to get our inbox threads. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, and I'm going to add a semicolon. Now, before we run this, I just want to note that there are some indications that this won't work if we just hit run. Those indications are as follows. Number 1, up top, we have this prompt that says that we have unsaved changes. Additionally, we have a yellow circle next to the file that we have been editing. These are 2 signs that you have not saved your file. So if the window closes or whatever, then those changes will not be reflected in future versions. Additionally, you can see in the menu bar, the function that is available to run is called my function. However, the name of my function is currently called attachment email. So when I hit run, I'm going to get an error that says my function does not exist, meaning my capital F function. So if you do not hit save and you hit run, you're going to get an error message in your execution log. And it's going to say attempted to execute my capital F function, but it was deleted. The reason for that is that when you create a new script file in Google Apps Script, the boilerplate function defaults to my function. And because I cleared out my code and I gave a new name to the function, when it attempted to run my function, it didn't work because I had not saved my file before running. So if you do get an error like this, it's likely because you changed the name of your function or the function name exists somewhere else in the code. But now that we have hit run, AppScript will automatically save your changes. So you'll notice that we no longer have the unsaved changes prompt. We have an icon that says changes were saved to drive, and additionally that yellow circle did not appear. So the next time I hit run, this will provide us the output of our code. So I'm going to do that. And you can see that I am getting what's called an array, or also known as a list of Gmail thread objects. So what that means is that we are accessing every thread from our Gmail. However, we don't have any substantive data about those threads. So within the object, we have things like subject lines and body, like the email body, and like send reply messages or read drafts or send all that type of stuff. However, if we attempt to access that using the inbox variable, and one way that we would do that is by using a dot, we get a generic set of methods available to us. That is not what we want. And the reason that we get that is because we need to individually access each object in our array. So right now, when we are attempting to do things with inbox, meaning using the dot methods, like to open up additional functions and methods and all that type of stuff, we are attempting to do it to the list, right? So it's effectively taking this list and adding a dot to the end of it. Whereas what we want to do is we want to access each thread, right? We want to identify the subject lines or all that type of stuff. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to loop through our inbox variable. So we're going to resume by going to line 7, and we're going to hit enter twice, and we are going to be aligning the indentation of our cursor so that our file has a design to it. So the way that we are going to align the cursor is by using Shift and Tab, and now you can see that we are aligned with line 6. However, I don't want to align my cursor with line 6. I want to align it with line 3. So I am going to hit Shift Tab again, and now you can see I am aligned with line 3, and I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to iterate through the inbox variable. We're going to hit Enter and Tab. And I'll show you after we do this why I structure my alignment this way. So the way that we are going to iterate through the inbox is by using a for loop. So we're going to type for, and we're going to open up a set of parentheses. For requires a variable for our iteration. And in most cases, the variable that is used is the letter I, and that stands for iteration or iterable. So most times when you see a for loop, regardless of language, it will be I. So we are going to say for I in, and then we are going to use the variable name from line 4. So in my case, my variable is called inbox. So we're going to say for I in inbox. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard and go outside of the parentheses. We are going to hit space, and we're going to add a set of curly brackets so that we can add logic to our for loop. We're going to hit enter twice, and we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment. And we will now define the subject line. So we're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to declare a variable, and I'm going to call this variable subject capital L line. I'm going to set it equal to. We are going to reference our inbox variable. We are going to loop through each item in the inbox variable because it is a list. So we're going to use square brackets, and we are going to pass our iteration variable of I. So if whatever you used here as your variable for the for loop, that's what you're going to pass in between these square brackets here. And what that allows you to do is access an individual item in the array or the list. So I'll show you this after we finish this set of code. But what happens is you can access each item of an array using a number. So arrays are 0 indexed, which means that the first item is represented by 0, the second item is represented by 1, third item by 2, so on and so forth. So if you wanted to get this item, you would just pass inbox square bracket 2, and that would return the third item in the array. When we use inbox square bracket I, we are looping through every item in the inbox. So this will default to a 0 index on line 10. When we say for I in inbox, the first iteration is 0. So when we say subject line is equal to inbox square bracket I, the first thing it'll do is go 0, then it'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way through until the end here. That's what I in, and then your variable does. So we have inbox square bracket I, and then we are going to use dot. And now you'll see, instead of getting a bunch of generic functions and methods, we have things that are directly related to Gmail app. We have add label, create draft reply all, get first subject message. We want to get the first subject message. This is what will provide us with the subject line of every email in our Gmail inbox. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit enter twice, and we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment where we will add some logging for transparency. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to type logger.log, open parentheses, subject line. And hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to add a semicolon. So let's review what we have here, and then we're going to run our code. We are accessing our Gmail app that is getting all of the threads in our Gmail, and that is being stored to the variable on line 4, which I've used the word inbox for. On line 7, we have logging that provides us output of the inbox variable, or the variable on line 4, whatever you called it, which shows us an array of Gmail thread objects. Because we want to access things within those objects, we are leveraging a for loop on line 10 that has a variable of I for our iteration. And we are going to loop through every item in the inbox, or the variable on line 4 array. We are accessing each element by using the variable name, in this case inbox, square brackets, and our for loop variable, which in my case is the letter I. And then we are using the .getFirstMessage subject method in order to individually identify every subject line from our Gmail inbox. I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to hit run. And now you can see that we are looping through each individual email in my inbox. So you can see that it's compiled. And if you have, thousands of messages, this might take a little bit of time. So feel free to pause it or stop it if you want to. But you can see here that we have this list of Gmail threads. And you can see that this first subject line is help on code. This has attachments. This is an email test. This has a signature, so on and so forth. These are all the emails from my inbox. And I want you to check out, this is a CSV, because this is the CSV email that I showed you at the beginning of the video, which I want to access. So that's the reason that we are getting the first subject line, or first subject, is so that we can identify the emails by their subject line. There are other ways to do it. You can also use the email identification number, which is up top here in the URL. This is a perfectly fine way to do it. But if you are attempting to do things like, for example, I have several emails in here called this is an HTML email. You might want to just batch delete every email that is like this is an HTML email, or every email that says like this is a CSV or whatever. You might want to be developing a project where you are accessing bulk messages. So using the subject line is a much more effective way than using the ID. But with that being said, I do believe that in the majority of cases, using IDs is the best way to approach data projects. Cool. So now that we have the subject line, we have the ability to add conditional logic to only get the email that we want. So what I would recommend doing is commenting out line 16, right? So what we're going to do is I want you to pick a subject line from your inbox that you want to identify, whether it's a batch set of emails or an individual email. I want you to grab that subject line. So you can either copy it here, or if you already know it, you can paste it, but we're going to comment out line 16. And the way that you can do that is by, you can go to the front of line 16 here, and you can add 2 slashes for a comment, or you can highlight the entire line like I have, and then I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to hit Command/, and then that's the keyboard shortcut for commenting it out. I don't have a Windows machine, so I'm not positive of this, but if I had to guess, it's probably Control/. But if you want to, search Google for what the keyboard shortcuts are. Otherwise, you can just add 2 slashes manually. Cool. And before I go on, I want to just show you real quick why I have the indentations the way that I do. This is for readability purposes. So basically, I view these lines as being parents. So the for loop is directly correlated with an action that we need to take for our script to work. So if you think about kind of like creating a bullet point list of things that you need to accomplish, or a checklist, the first thing you need to do is access Gmail app so that you can get the threads. The second thing you need to do is loop through the threads in order to get the subjects. Third thing you need to do is create a conditional in order to access the email that you want. Now, in addition to just being easy for me to scan, you have the ability to collapse windows. So for example, this comment here can be collapsed. So now you can see that we are no longer seeing the logging for transparency. And then if we wanted to, we could also collapse this access the Gmail app. And now that block of code is no longer on screen, so that I have a cleaner interface to work with. And the same thing will happen with this line here, where if I want to, I can collapse logging for transparency, and I can collapse subject line, and I can collapse the iterate through. So now when I'm looking at my code, if I want to debug something, I don't have to scroll through, if you start really building out a project, tens of hundreds of rows or whatever. You can kind of, you can have these little windows that are easier to manage than having a full script file that you have to scroll through. So that's the reason that I recommend indentation when working in AppScript. But the indentation doesn't matter. Your code will work regardless of where it is. The only thing that matters is the case type of the letters. Cool. So we are going to resume on line 16. We are going to hit enter twice. And in line with what we just spoke about, we are going to align our cursor indentation. So we are going to hit Shift Tab, and now we are aligned with line 15. However, this is not directly related to line 15, so I'm going to hit Shift Tab again, and now I am aligned with line 12. And the reason that I want to be aligned with line 12 is because I want to remain within my for loop logic. So this is going to resume with 2 slashes, where we will develop some conditional logic for the subject line. We're going to hit enter and tab. So now we're going to use an if statement. So we are going to type if, and we are going to have an open set of parentheses, and we are going to reference the variable on line 13. So we are going to say subject line, because that is the name of my variable. If you use something else, that's what you'll type here. Whatever you have on line 13 is what is going to go into line 19. We're going to hit space. We are going to have 2 equal signs, and we are going to hit space, and then we are going to add single quotes or double quotes, whatever your preference is, so that we can type out the name of the subject line that we want to access, which in my case is, this is a CSV. We are going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard twice. We are going to hit space, and we are going to add a set of curly brackets. We're going to hit enter twice, and we are going to add 2 slashes for a comment and hit space. Now, before we go ahead, I just want to add some additional context here. On line 19, we have if subject line, double equal sign, and then the thing that we want to have. The reason that you're using double equal signs is because double equal signs is how you compare something. Whereas on line 4 and line 13, we have a single equal sign, which is how we define something. So line 4, we are defining that the string inbox is equal to, and then we have some logic. On line 13, we have the string of subject line that is equal to something. So when you have a single equal sign, you are defining something. When you have double equal sign, you are comparing something. So if, in this case, subject line is double equal sign to single quote, this is a CSV, then it will allow the logic within our curly brackets of the if statement to go through. But if it is not equal to the thing that it's being compared to, then nothing will happen. We can declare additional logic in here, so we can add like an else or an else if or whatever to build out our logic system. But effectively, whatever we put within the curly brackets associated with our if statement on line 19 will not take place if the subject line does not match what you enter into the quotation marks. We're going to resume by accessing the message. I'm going to add a parenthetical there because you might have messages. You don't need to. From the thread. So we're going to hit enter and tab, and we are going to declare a variable. I'm going to call it message, and I am going to set it equal to inbox square bracket I, and then we are going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, use the dot method, and then we are going to get capital M messages. I'm going to have an open parentheses here. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, and we are going to add a semicolon. So the reason that we need to access each individual message is so that we can get at the attachments. So for example, you don't need to do this. Leave your logic as it is. If we do .get and then we start typing the word attachments, you can see that there's nothing there. It doesn't have a message for that. So we need to use .get messages like this. And then we will hit the right arrow. And then we have the ability, well, we don't have the ability. You can see that we have the option to use some generic methods similarly to when we did our inbox variable here. So the same way that our get inbox threads returned a list of Gmail thread objects is the same thing that is going to happen here, where we are going to get an array of message objects. So we're going to log that out so that we can see what it looks like. So on line 22, we are going to hit enter twice. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to add some logging for transparency. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we'll use logger.log, open parentheses, and then we are going to use that message variable or whatever variable name you used on line 2. We're going to add a semicolon. We'll hit save, and then we are going to hit run. So now you can see on line 7, we logged out our inbox variable, or whatever the variable name you used on line 4 is, and we got an array of Gmail threads. And then on line 25, we logged out our message for any subject line that is, this is a CSV, and you can see that we also got a list. And in this case, we got a Gmail message object. And the reason that we got this Gmail message object is because there's lots of things associated when you access a thread with messages. So let me clarify what that means just for the sake of explaining the logic system that we have here. You'll notice that even though we have identified our subject line here, we are not accessing the subject line, right? We are continuing to use this inbox variable from line 4. the reason for that is because the subject line does not have the message. So when we say inbox.get first message subject, we are merely accessing one piece of information or one data point associated with the get inbox threads list that we returned from our inbox variable. Once we identify the thread that we want to access using the subject line logic on line 19, we are now resuming accessing the Gmail thread object in order to get the messages. So in the case of a thread with many replies, you might have many messages. So when you say inbox square bracket I dot get messages, you might have multiple messages associated with your inbox thread object. So we need to go back to line 25 and add in another for loop so that we can access each individual message from the thread. So we are going to go to line 25, hit enter twice, and we are going to align our cursor indentation using Shift Tab. So we are now aligned with the logger. We don't want to do that. And we are going to hit Shift Tab, and we are going to align with line 21. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, add space, and now we are going to loop through the messages. We're going to hit enter and tab. And what I'm going to do is collapse these windows so that you get to see more of my screen, because we're starting to go down screen a little bit. So I'm going to collapse line 3, and I'm going to collapse line 12, and that should be good enough for now. So we are going to use another for loop, and we are going to open up a set of parentheses. Now, I would recommend using a different variable, because if you use I again, you will potentially conflict with what's happening on line 10. So because we are doing a for loop within a for loop, I would recommend using the letter J. And the reason that I recommend J is because J comes after I, H-I-J, get. So you start with I, and then your second loop is J. And we're going to say for J in, and then we're going to use the variable on line 22, which in my case is message. So we are going to loop through the messages so that we can access the attachments associated with those messages. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to hit space. We're going to add a set of curly brackets. We're going to hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to access the attachments. In this case, it could be an attachment or it could be an attachments. This is an attachment. So we're going to hit enter and tab, and we are going to declare a variable. I'm going to call this a variable attachment. I'm going to set it equal to message square bracket J. So the same way that we used inbox square bracket I in order to loop through each of our subject lines, we are going to use message square bracket J in order to loop through all of our messages. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to use dot, and now you can see instead of concat and filter and all of those generic array methods, we now have the ability to create a draft reply, forward, and the thing that we want, which is the get attachments. So we're going to add a set of parentheses because we don't, but we're not going to pass anything through them because we don't have any arguments or anything like that. So we're going to hit the right arrow, add a semicolon, and then we are going to hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for comment, and now we are going to add some logging for transparency. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we are going to use logger.log, open parentheses, and then pass whatever your variable name is for line 31. In my case, it's attachment. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit run. You can see that we got our Gmail thread, we got our Gmail message, and then we got our Gmail attachment. Now you'll notice that our Gmail attachment is also structured as an array. So that means in order for us to access things with the attachment, we are going to have to loop through that. Because if we do dot, you can see that we don't actually have anything available to us. So we are going to go to line 34, hit enter twice, hit shift tab to align it with the logging on line 33, and then hit shift tab again to align the indentation with line 30. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and now we will loop through the attachments. I'm going to hit enter and tab. And similarly to what we did on line 28, we are going to do 4 open parentheses K. And the reason that we're doing K is because H, I, J, K, these all align our variables so that they are easy to follow along with, and they intuitively imply that it is the third or the second or the first for loop in this sequence. So we'll do 4K in attachment. You can hit the right arrow on our keyboard, hit space. We're going to add a set of curly brackets. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment and hit space. And now what we'll do is let's log the attachment just so that you can see this. Because in my case, I just hit enter and I hit tab. In my case, I have a single attachment, but you may be working in a scenario where you have multiple attachments. So I just want you to see what's going on so that you can develop off of this code if need be. So what we're going to do is log out attachment square bracket K. Hit the right arrow, and when we hit dot, you can see that we get a bunch of options here. So we can get the name, we can get the size, we can get the bytes, we can get the content type, all that type of stuff in here. So let's just say that for now. Also for readability purposes, I am going to collapse line 21 and I'll keep line 18 open. And I am going to hit run. So you can see we're getting our Gmail thread objects, we're getting our Gmail message, and then we are getting our Gmail attachment. And now we are individually accessing our Gmail attachment. So one method, if you are working with more than one attachment, is you might want to use the .get name method in here. I'm going to hit the right arrow. I'm going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit run. So now you can see that we are getting the name of the attachment. So if you have more than one attachment and you want to get a specific attachment out of multiple attachments, you can use similar logic as line 19, where you can use an if statement to say if attachment is equal to, right? So in this case, you would save attachment square bracket k dot get name to a variable, which is like attachment name or something. And you could say if attachment name is equal to, and then whatever you want, whatever attachment you want, then you can isolate individual attachments. For my purposes, I do not need to add that layer of abstraction in here. So I am going to remove line 39. You know what? I'll keep it there just in case you want to use it, and I'll resume on line 40, and I'll hit enter twice, and I will align my cursor using shift and tab. And what I'm going to do now is add 2 slashes for comment and create files for each attachment. So in my tutorial here, if you have more than one attachment, you are going to be creating a file for each attachment. And we are just going to, for the sake of ease, we're going to just add it to our Google Drive instead of, no, you know what, we'll move it to our project folder. So we're going to hit enter and we'll do tab. And what we're going to do is we're going to access drive app dot create file open parentheses. And this is where we are going to use our attachment square bracket K. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard twice and we'll do dot move to, and we will have open parentheses and we will use drive app dot get capital F folder by ID, and then we are going to open up a set of parentheses, and then we need to pass our folder ID as a string. So we use single quotes or double quotes. So I am going to go to my drive folder now, and I'm just going to add it in here. So I will have, or you know what? Let's create a new folder in here just so that you can see it. You can use whatever folder ID you want. Like, so if I wanted to, all I would have to do is just copy this ID up here because that's the folder ID. You can see it just comes after folder slash. And here I'm going to say created attachments. I'm going to hit enter. And now you can see I have a new folder in here. I double click in and the folder ID changes. I'm going to copy this ID. I'm going to go back to my script. I'm going to paste it in here. I'm going to go to the right. I'm going to add a semicolon. So now what should happen is when I hit run, we're going to get all of our, we have to review permissions, my apologies. So we'll review permissions and give access to Drive app. So I'm going to select my account. I'm going to go to advanced. I'm going to go to this link down here. This is just saying that Google hasn't looked at this code. So if you're allowing access, then you are allowing it to create, read, update, and delete your stuff. So what we're getting here is our Gmail thread object list. We are getting our Gmail message list from this if subject line is equal to. We are getting our Gmail attachment from our 4J and message. We are getting our attachment name from 4K and attachment. And because this completed without error, we should have created a file for each attachment. In this case, it's just one attachment in our created attachments folder. And you can see in here, we now have a CSV with the data that was in our Gmail thread. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we will be adding a new script file. You can call this file whatever you want to. I'm going to call mine k_label_email. I'm going to hit enter. That's going to be the focus of today's lesson. We're going to be learning how to create a new label in our Gmail, and then how to apply that label by using the subject line of our message. So I'm going to go to my Gmail inbox, and you can see that I don't have any labels at present. So we are going to be scripting a way to create a new label, and then we are going to apply the label using some conditional logic. For my purposes, I have a set of emails called confirmation of receipt that come from my website's contact form. So I'm going to be using AppScript in order to create a label, and then I'll apply it to any message that has the subject line confirmation of receipt. I'm going to begin by removing the boilerplate code. I'm going to create a function called email capital L label. This function is merely so that we can compile our code. We're not going to be using it anywhere else in our file directory. So when we open up a set of parentheses, we are not going to be passing any arguments, so we can leave it blank. Hit the right arrow on my keyboard, I'm going to hit space. I'm going to add a set of curly brackets so that I can add some logic to my function. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment. And the first thing that I'm going to do is define the label name. I'm going to hit enter and tab. So I'm going to declare a variable called label capital N name. You can use any word or thing that you like. I decided to go with label name. I'm going to hit space and the equal sign. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to use a set of single quotes. You can use double quotes if you want to. I'm going to use the word website space contact. Again, you can use any word you want to. This is the label that you are going to be applying to your inbox. At the right arrow on my keyboard, I'm going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice, and then I'm going to align my cursor with line 3. So I'm going to hit shift tab, and now you can see that the indentation is uniform. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment and add a space. And now I'm going to create the label. And hit enter and tab. I'm going to declare a variable called label capital C create. I'm going to set that equal to capital G Gmail, capital A app. I'm going to use dot, and then I am going to type create, and then you can see that we have label. So we're going to create the label. One note, make sure that it's capital L. AppScript is case sensitive, so if you do not capitalize the correct letters, then you will not, your code will not successfully run. We're going to open up a set of parentheses. Create label takes a single argument, which is a string. It's also noted here as the name, so it's basically the name of the label. So we're going to use the variable on line 4, in my case, label capital N name. I hit the right arrow on the keyboard, and I'm going to add a semicolon. So you can, if you want to, you don't have to use line 3 and 4, meaning you don't need to add this comment here, and you don't need to declare this variable if you don't want to. You could also just paste this string, or you could just type this string inside of create label. The reason that I declared a variable was so that I had some modularity in my logic. So in the event that I decided to create a new label, I could reuse this function. So I could just change line 4, and then everything else would change with it. Additionally, if you did want to develop an application that automated the creation of labels, you could add inputs to your function up top here so that you could pass a string to this function, and then it would filter through the rest of your code. But effectively what's happening is you are just using a string here with create label in order to add that label to your Gmail. We're going to run this code in order to see that our label appears in Gmail. But I just want to note that if we hit run right now, we will get an error message, and a couple indications of why we would get an error message. Number 1, right up top here, we're getting a prompt that says unsaved changes. Additionally, we have a yellow circle next to our file that we are editing in. Both of these indicators are to show that there are unsaved changes going on. Now, in most circumstances with Google AppScript, if you have unsaved changes and you hit run, AppScript will save your changes and then run. In this case, though, the third indication is that the function name, the select function to run option, is called my function. That is not the name of the function in my file. It is called email label. And I don't believe anywhere else in my project is a function called my function. So when I hit run here, I'm going to get an error that says my function doesn't exist. My function meaning my capital F function. So when I hit run here, you'll see that it attempted to execute my function, but it was deleted. If you're getting this error message, it's because you did not save your function so that it was available to run. You'll notice that once I hit run, I returned an error message, but the yellow circle next to my file went away. The unsaved changes prompt has been changed to save to drive. And now instead of having my function here, we have the name of the function that I've entered, which is email label. So now when I run my code, you can see that it starts and completes without issue. We're going to go to Gmail now, and I am going to hit refresh. I am going to, well, look, I don't even need to. You can see that my labels now have website contact here. So we have successfully created a label. Now, the other thing that I want to show you is that you can hit run here as many times as you want to, and you will always just have website contact here. So I'm going to hit refresh, And you can see that I don't have duplicates. I only have one label here. Whereas if I go back, and you don't have to do this, but I just want you to see, I'm going to add website contact space 2, and I'm going to hit run. I'm going to go back to my Gmail, and when I hit refresh, you'll see that I now have website contact 2. So you can create label as many times as you want to. You will not create duplicated labels. It will remain distinct or unique. So as long as the label does not exist, then it will be created. If it does exist, then it will not consistently create the label. So I'm just going to remove website contact 2 because we don't need it, and we're going to go back to our project. We'll resume on line 7 by hitting enter twice, and then we're going to align our cursor with lines 6 and 3, so I'm going to use shift and tab. The reason that I recommend having uniform indentation is for 2 reasons. Number 1 is readability. This is my personal preference. I find it easier to scan my code where I have a comment that effectively acts as a bullet point as to what I need to accomplish my ultimate goal. Additionally, you have the ability here to collapse windows. So for example, once I'm done defining my label, if I want to organize my project a little bit more, I can collapse it and just focus on the section that I need to. Same thing happens here with create label. You'll see that now I have kind of like a project roadmap here of all of the things that are happening within my function. So if I'm coming back to it after several weeks or months, I can collapse my windows and kind of be like, okay, first thing I did was define the label name. And then the next thing I did was create the label. And then I don't have to worry about all of the logic that is going on underneath. I can kind of just get a high level view of what's going on. I'm going to make one change real quick. I'm just going to make this website contact. I'm going to remove the 2. So we're going to resume on line 9. So we want to have our indentation aligned with 3 and 6. And we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment where we will be getting the label name. So we're going to hit enter and tab. And we're going to declare a variable. Again, you can call these whatever you want to. I'm going to reference them by the names that I choose as well as the lines that they are on. My recommendation to you, if you want to follow along, try to keep your indentation and your lines uniform with mine so that we can use a shared vernacular, whether it is the name or the line number that we're on. The variable name that I'm going to choose for line 10 is label. I'm going to set that equal to capital G Gmail app dot get capital U user label by name. This is another reason that I used line 4 so that we could declare our variable name, is so that we can access it in multiple points throughout the function. So the reason that we are getting the label name is that we are eventually going to want to add the label to specific emails, and we can reference the label on line 10. So we are going to pass a variable on line 4, which I've called label name. I'm going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, and we are going to add a semicolon. Cool. So we now have logic established for defining our label name, creating our label, and then accessing the label. The next thing that we need to do is access our emails so that we can identify the ones that we want to apply the label to. So we're going to resume on line 10 by hitting enter twice and aligning our cursor using shift tab. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to access the email threads in our Gmail. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to declare a variable, which again, use whatever name you want to. I'm going to use the word inbox. I'm going to set it equal to capital G Gmail app dot get capital I inbox capital T threads. We're going to open up a set of parentheses, but we are not going to pass any arguments to it. We hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit enter twice. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we're going to add some logging for transparency. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and we are going to use capital L logger.log. And we're going to open up a set of parentheses, and we're going to pass the variable name from line 13. In my case, that is inbox. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I am going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit run. Now what you're going to see is what's known as an array or a list of Gmail thread objects. So we now have every thread from my inbox. In order for us to access the subject lines, the messages, the attachments, all the things that we potentially want to do with a thread, we're going to have to loop through them. So for example, on line 16, if I start using a dot method, you can see that I'm getting generic list comprehension type of methods. So we're getting concat, we're getting copy within, we're getting entries, we're getting every, we're getting fill. All of these things are not related to Gmail app. So we need to access each individual item in the list. And the way that we're going to do that is by using a loop. And my preference is to use a for loop. So I'm going to go to line 16. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to hit shift tab to align my cursor. We don't want to align with line 15 because we are no longer operating with the inbox variable directly. We are going to be augmenting it. So we're going to hit shift tab again. So we are aligned with line 3, 6, 9, and 12. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to iterate through the inbox threads. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and we are going to use a for loop. We're going to open up a set of parentheses, and we need to declare an iteration variable. In most cases, the letter I is used in for loops as the iteration variable. You can use whatever you want to. I use I regardless of the programming language that I'm in, and I think it is a variable that the majority of people, when given code, will be very familiar in seeing. So I would recommend that you use I as well, but you can do whatever you want to. So we're going to say for our variable, in my case I, in. And then we are going to use the variable on line 13, which in my case is called inbox. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, we're going to hit space, and we're going to open up a set of curly brackets so that we can develop some logic within our for loop. I'm going to hit enter twice, I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and I'm going to hit space. So what we're going to do is we're going to extract the subject line. So I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I'm going to declare a variable. The name that I want to use is subject, capital L, line. I'm going to set that equal to my variable name from line 13, which in this case is inbox. And we're going to use a square bracket so that I can access each item in the inbox list. The value that I'm going to enter there is my iteration variable, which in this case is I. This will allow us to loop through each element or item of our array. So arrays are 0 indexed. What that means is the first value is denoted by 0, the second value is denoted by 1, the third value is denoted by 2, and so on. That is different from an index of 1 that starts at 1, where the first value is 1, 2, and 3. So arrays are 0 indexed, and when you use for I in or for variable in, that is also 0 indexed. So when we pass the I here, what's happening is it is iterating from 0 all the way to the last item in our thread. So the I is effectively going 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so on and so forth, all the way up through here. That allows us to get each individual item of our array. So after inbox square bracket I, we are going to say dot get first message subject. We're going to open up a set of parentheses. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, and we're going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment, and now we will add some logging for transparency so that you can see what's happening. We're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to do capital L logger.log, open up a set of parentheses, and we're going to pass subject capital L line. Then hit the right arrow on our keyboard, and we are going to add a semicolon. So we have a lot of stuff right now that we're not using. So we're going to leverage the indentation structure of our function in order to collapse some windows. So I'm going to go to line 3, and I'm going to collapse define the label name. I'm going to go to line 6, and I'm going to collapse the label. I'm going to go to line 9, and I'm going to collapse the get the label name. So now we're just looking at our inbox variable, which is how we're accessing our inbox. We have logging on line 16, which is how we see the output from what we're doing on line 13. We have our for loop, where we are referencing the variable from line 13, and we have an iteration variable so that we can access each item from the inbox array. Line 22 is attempting to extract the subject line of every thread from our inbox, and line 25 is going to provide us output so that we can validate that we have successfully accomplished what we are attempting to achieve. We're going to hit run to see if our code works as expected, and it is looking like it is doing what we want it to. So in my case, I don't have that many threads. You might have tens of thousands of messages in your inbox, so this might take a little bit longer. You can stop your execution log if you don't need it to go through everything. You just want to make sure that this works. And I can confirm that these are the messages from my inbox. So for example, I want to use confirmation of receipt. So you can see I have a confirmation of receipt right here, and I have a confirmation of receipt right here, and I have a confirmation of receipt right there. So what I am going to do now is I'm going to comment out my logging because I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to go to line 25, and there are two ways to comment out code. My preference is to use the hotkeys. I'm on a Mac, so I'm going to use Command and /. I don't have a Windows machine, so I don't know what it is, but I would assume it's Control/, and that will add a comment. Or we'll remove it. So now I'm going to uncomment it by using Command/, and now you can see it's back. If you don't know the hotkey, or the hotkey recommendation that I've given you does not work, you can just go to the front of the line and add 2 slashes and a space, and that will do the same thing. So I'm going to comment out the logging that I have thus far because I don't want all that noise in the console. We're going to resume from line 25. We're going to hit enter twice, and we are going to align our indentation with line 21. So we're going to hit shift tab, and you can see we are now aligned with line 24, and we're going to hit shift tab one more time, and now we're aligned with the comment on line 21, which is the subject line. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and the next step is adding conditional logic for the emails I want. So I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I am going to use if. I'm going to open up a set of parentheses where I will reference the variable from line 22. So for me, that is subject capital L line. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to add 2 equal signs. I'm going to hit space, and I'm going to add a set of single quotes here. You can also use double quotes if you want to. So the reason that we are using 2 equal signs is because 2 equal signs means that we are comparing something. Compared to on line 22 and line 13, where we are using a single equal sign in order to define something. So when we use a single equal sign, we are saying, like in my instances here, I am using string. So I'm using the string of inbox and saying inbox is defined as, and then the logic that follows. Same thing is happening on line 22. I have a string, meaning I have a set of letters, and they are set equal to some logic. So they are being defined. That means anytime that I reference that string, in this case, subject line on line 28, I am saying that I want that code that comes after the single equal sign. When we have the double equal sign on line 28, it means we're comparing something. So in the case of subject line, we have strings. right? So we have subject strings that are the subject lines from our Gmail inbox. So we're saying if the subject line is equal to whatever's in the single quotes, then allow it to have the preceding logic apply to it. And if it doesn't match it, then ignore it. So in this case, I want all subject lines that are confirmation of receipt. So I'm going to hit the right arrow so that I am on the I am to the right of my parentheses. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to add a set of curly brackets, and I'm going to hit enter twice. Add the label to these threads. I'm going to hit enter and tab. So we're going to use inbox square bracket I dot add, and then you can see we have label. We're going to have an open set of parentheses, and we're just going to pass a label name. So you can see that we are using, in the documentation, they're using Gmail app.getUserLabel by name, and then they are using thread.addLabel. So we are going to use our variable on line 10, which in my case is label. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit save. And then we are going to hit run. Cool. And it completed. We're going to go back to our email. I'm going to select my label. And now you can see that I have several emails in my label called confirmation of receipt. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we'll be creating a new script file. You can call this file whatever you want to. I'm going to call mine L_mark_red. I'm going to hit enter. The reason that I used L_ is so that I can organize my file directory. So if I want to move something up or move it back, I just change the starting letter, and then everything is organized in a way so that I know where it is. The focus of this lesson is going to be marking an unread email as read. So in my inbox, I have an unread email that has the subject line of please mark this email as read. So what we are going to do is we are going to script out a solution so that anytime that I get a specific subject line in my inbox, the function can run and mark it as read. So we are going to begin by removing the boilerplate code. You can keep it if you want to. I'm going to type function space, and I am going to call my function mark capital R read, and have an open set of parentheses. I'm not going to be passing any arguments as part of this lesson, but if you do want to make this a more dynamic function, you can add some variables here and plug it into your logic. Hit the right arrow on our keyboard, hit space, add a set of curly brackets, hit enter twice, and the first thing that we're going to do is add 2 slashes for a comment so that we can access the Gmail app. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I'm going to declare a variable. You can use any name that you want to. I'm going to be using the word inbox. I'm going to set that equal to capital G, Gmail, capital A, app, dot get, capital I, inbox threads. I have an open set of parentheses, and we're not going to be passing any arguments to it. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to add a semicolon. We're going to hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment, where we will add some logging for transparency. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to use capital L logger.log. We're going to have an open parentheses, and we're going to pass whatever name used on line 4. So in my case, it's the word inbox. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard, and I'm going to add a semicolon. So at this point, if I try to run my code, I'm going to get an error because the function, my function, is currently selected because I changed the name but didn't save the file. So I'm going to hit save. Now I have mark read as my function name. I hit run, and the output is an array of Gmail thread objects. So in order for us to access the threads in our inbox, we're going to have to loop through this inbox variable. So we are going to close our execution log, go to line 7, hit enter twice, and we're going to want to align our cursor with line 3. So we're going to use Shift Tab, and now you can see we are aligned with line 6, and then we're going to hit Shift Tab, and we are now aligned with line 3. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment where we will be iterating through the inbox variable. I'm going to hit enter and tab. The way that we're going to do that is by using a for loop. So we're going to type for, open parentheses. You're going to have to declare a variable for for. Typically, people use the letter I, but you can use whatever variable you want to. I'm going to use I. I'm going to say for I in, and then I am going to say inbox. So you're going to reference whatever variable name you typed on line 4. We hit the right arrow on our keyboard, hit space, add a set of curly brackets, and hit enter twice. We are going to add 2 slashes for a comment where we will identify the subject line. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we are going to declare a new variable called subject capital L line, and we'll set it equal to inbox square bracket I. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard, and we're going to use dot get first message subject. We're going to have an open set of parentheses. We are not going to pass any arguments to those parentheses. So we're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard and add a semicolon. We're going to hit enter twice, 2 slashes for a comment where we will add some logging for transparency. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to use capital L logger.log, open up a set of parentheses, and pass whatever the variable name is on line 13. In my case, it is subject line. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a semicolon, and I'm going to hit run. This is just going to give us some feedback so that we can ensure that our logic is working correctly. So if you have thousands of emails, you might have wanted to hit stop before your script compiles, or you can let it run, whatever works best for you. So you can see here I have a couple different emails in my inbox. And if I go to the top, you can see that my most recent email is, please mark this email as read. Since we saw that when we started the video, we can confirm that this is working as expected. So because we don't need it anymore, I am going to comment out the logging on line 16. I just did that by highlighting it and then hitting Command/. If you're using a Windows machine, it's probably Control/, but I apologize if that's not correct. Additionally, I'm going to log out line 7. So if you don't know the hotkey command for adding a comment, you can manually just add 2 slashes and a space, and it does the same thing. So the reason that I logged that out is because I don't want all of that noise as we continue to develop our logic. So we're going to resume on line 16, where we will hit enter twice, and then we're going to align our cursor indentation with line 12. So we're going to hit Shift Tab, and now we're aligned with line 15. We're going to hit Shift Tab, and now we are aligned with line 12. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, where we will add conditional logic for the emails we want. We're going to hit enter and tab. So we're going to use if. We're going to open up a set of parentheses, and we're going to reference the variable on line 13. So I'm going to say subject line. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to add 2 equal signs. I'm going to hit space, and I'm going to add single quotes. You can also add double quotes if you want to. So for my purposes, I want to access, please mark this email as read. So I'm going to go in here, and you can either copy and paste it or just type it out. So I'm going to say, please mark this email as read. And I'm just going to go check that to make sure. Please mark this email as read. Awesome. So now I have logic that is establishing comparison. And that's why you need to use double equal signs. Anytime you use double equal signs, you are comparing one thing to another. So in this situation, we are defining a variable for subject line on line 13. You'll note that we're using a single equal sign for that. When you use one equal sign, you are defining something. So you're saying that subject line is equal to the logic that follows. When you're using double equal signs, you are comparing it. So you're saying all of these subject lines are being compared against this string. If the subject line is the same as the string, then I want you to do something else. And that's what we're now going to define, is what we want to have happen if the subject line matches our string. So we're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard twice so that we're to the right of the parentheses. We're going to add a space and add a set of curly brackets. We're going to hit enter twice. And what we're going to do now is just mark our email as read. So we're going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and we are going to mark as read. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we are going to use our variable from line 4, which is inbox. We're going to add square bracket, and we are going to pass in our iteration variable, which in my case is I. And then we're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to add a dot, and then we're going to type mark, and then you can see that we have read. So we are going to add a set of parentheses. We don't need to pass any arguments. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a semicolon. I'm going to save my project. I'm going to hit run. I am going to wait for my script to compile. It has successfully completed. I am going to go to my inbox. I'm going to hit refresh. And you can see I now have no unread messages in my inbox. So my script has worked as expected. Now, additionally, you could also mark something as unread. So what I'm going to do now is comment out line 22. So I highlighted it using Shift Command left arrow. If you're on a Windows machine, I think it's Shift Control left arrow. And then I did Command slash or Control slash. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to hit enter twice. I am going to align my cursor with line 21. So I'm going to do Shift Tab, and now I'm going to add a comment where I will mark as unread. I'm going to hit enter and tab. I'm going to use inbox, square bracket I, hit the right arrow on my keyboard, add a dot, and now I will mark unread. I'll add an open parentheses there, add a semicolon, and hit run. I'm going to wait for my code to finish compiling. You can see it is completed without any errors. I'm going to go back to my inbox. I'm going to hit the little refresh arrow, and now you can see that this email is now unread. So you have the ability to mark emails as read or unread, and the way that we did that was by accessing our Gmail so that we could get all the threads in our inbox. We then used a for loop to iterate through each Gmail thread object that appears as a list so that we could get the subject for each thread in our inbox. We then evaluated our subject lines against a string, and we marked the unread email as read. We also learned that we could mark it as unread. Now, additionally, there's some other options in here where you can mark important, mark unimportant. So you have a couple different options that you can do in here. It really depends on what your project requires. We're going to resume by navigating to the Files menu, where we'll be adding a script file. You can call this file whatever you want to. I'm going to call it m_delete_email. I'm going to hit enter. Now the reason that I use m_ is so that I can organize my file directory. So if I want to move something up, I can change the letter. If I want to move something down, I can change the letter. This way, my directory is organized in a way so that I can quickly scan it and find the file that I want. The focus of today's lesson is how to move emails to trash. This will allow you to automate the deletion of emails if they have a specific subject line. I'm going to clear out the boilerplate code of the new file, and I will begin by creating a function. You can call this function whatever you want to. Mine will be called delete email. I'm not going to be passing any arguments to this email, so I'm going to open up a set of parentheses that will have no arguments within them. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to add a set of curly brackets. I'm going to hit enter twice. Now, I just want to note before starting this lesson that we will be deleting emails. When you run this function, they will not be permanently deleted, but they will be moved to your trash can. And if memory serves correctly, I believe Gmail automatically deletes the messages permanently after 30 days. So please be careful when working with this logic system, because I don't want you to delete things that you don't want to and then have a bunch of headaches on your hand. We're going to begin by adding 2 slashes for a comment and hitting space. The first thing that we will do is access the Gmail app. So we're going to hit enter and tab. We're going to declare a variable. You can call this variable whatever you want to. I'm going to use the word inbox. I'm going to set it equal to capital G, Gmail, capital A, app. I'm going to use .get capital I, inbox, capital T, threads, and I'm going to open up a set of parentheses. I'm not going to be passing any arguments to these parentheses, so I can hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to add a semicolon, hit enter twice. I'm going to align the indentation of my cursor so that line 6 aligns with line 3. I'm going to hit shift tab. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment. In previous videos in this series, we've discussed that the inbox variable returns an output of an array of Gmail thread objects. So if you would like to access the email subject line or the message body or the message attachments, you have to loop through the inbox variable. If you would like more explanation on that, please consult some of the other videos in this series. We are going to iterate through the inbox variable. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we are going to do so by using a for loop. We're going to open up a set of parentheses. We need to declare an iteration variable. In most cases, the letter I is what is used in most systems and programming languages, so that's what I'm going to use here. So I'm going to say for I in space, and then I'm going to reference the variable on line 4, in this case, inbox. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I'm going to hit space. I'm going to add a set of curly brackets. I'm going to hit enter twice. And now I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment where I will define the subject line. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I'm going to declare a variable that I will call subject line. You can call it whatever you want to. I'm going to set it equal to inbox square bracket I. So I'm referencing the variable on line 4 as well as the iteration variable from line 7. That will allow us to access each item in the inbox array, also known as a list. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard and then add a dot. And now we are going to get first message subject with an open parentheses. I'm going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard and we are going to add a semicolon. I'm going to hit enter twice and add some logging just to ensure that your code is working correctly to this point. So we're going to add some logging for transparency. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to use capital L logger.log, open up a parenthesis, and we will use subject capital L line. We're going to hit the right arrow on the keyboard. We are going to add a semicolon. You can hit run at this point, which is what I will do, and you'll see that I got an error. Now the reason for that is because I changed the name of my function from my capital F function to delete email. And because I didn't hit save before doing so, the option up top here did not say my function. Now you can say it says delete email. So when I hit run, you'll see that I am now getting a bunch of all the subject lines from my inbox. The message that I would like to delete is called please mark this email as read. So if you go to my inbox, or I'll go to my inbox, you'll see that I have this message here called please mark this email as read. And the very next message is help on code. So you can see that it is please mark this email as read, help on code. That's an indication that my logic is working as expected. I'm going to comment out line 13, which I will do so by using command /, which is the keyboard shortcut for comment. Additionally, if you do not know the keyboard hotkey for doing so, you can manually do it by going to the front of line 13, adding 2 slashes and a space, and it does the same thing. We're going to go to the end of line 13, and we're going to hit enter twice. We're going to align our cursor with line 9, so we're going to hit Shift Tab once. We are now aligned with line 12, and then we're going to hit it again, and now we're aligned with line 9. So my apologies if I think I said a different number. We want it to be aligned with line 9 so that the comment subject line is aligned with line 15. We're going to add 2 slashes for a comment where we will add conditional logic for the emails I want. We're going to hit enter and tab, and we're going to use an if statement. So we're going to say if, open parentheses, subject line, or whatever your variable on line 10 is, double equal sign, single quote, and now you're going to enter the subject line for the email that you want to delete. So in my case, I want to do, please mark this email as read. So I'm going to go back in here, I'm going to say, please, space, mark, space, this email, space, as read. And hit the right arrow on my keyboard twice, I'm going to hit space, I'm going to add a set of curly brackets. I'm going to hit enter twice, add 2 slashes for a comment. And now I'm going to add some logging for transparency. I'm going to hit enter and tab. And what I'm going to do is hit logger.log, open parentheses. And what we're going to try and do is just use subject line. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. And what I'm hoping is that when I hit run, we are only going to get subject lines that have that match the subject line of please mark this email as read. So I'm going to hit run. So of course, use an email subject line that you want to use. So you can see that right now on my screen, the only subject line I have is please mark this email as read. And then this pinwheel here is indicating that the script is continuing to run. So this is a pretty good indication that the logic is working as expected. And now we've seen that the script has completed without error, and we only had one subject line in here. So that's a really good indicator to us that our logic is correctly isolating only subject lines that match the string that we are comparing to, which in this case for me is please mark this email as read. So now that we have this logic in here, we are going to, I'm going to comment out that logging because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to be on line 19. I'm going to hit enter twice. I'm going to add 2 slashes for a comment, and I am going to move the thread to trash. I'm going to hit enter and tab, and I am going to do inbox square bracket I. I'm going to hit the right arrow on my keyboard. I am going to use dot, and I'm going to say move to, and then you can see that we have a couple different options here. We can move to archive, we can move to inbox, we can move to spam, or we can move to trash. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have an open set of parentheses. We don't need to pass any arguments. We're going to hit the right arrow on our keyboard. We're going to add a semicolon, and we're going to hit save. So at this point, I am going to hit run. Again, I am just going to say, be very careful about what you move to trash if you do not want to move something to trash. There are some ways using logger.log that you can add some confidence to your workflow to make sure that you are deleting what you want to. In this case, we have a generically static set of logic here where it's not going to run if we don't want it to. But I feel really good about this, and I am going to hit run. So I'm going to wait for my code to compile. And once it's completed, we're going to go to my inbox, and I am going to check to make sure that the message that I want moved to trash successfully was moved to trash. Cool. So we have completed. I'm going to go back to my inbox. You can see that I have one unread email, which is please mark this email as read. I'm going to hit refresh, and you can see it is no longer in there. And when I open up my emails, you can see it is no longer in my inbox. So I'm going to go down to more. I'm going to go to trash. And now you can see, please mark this email has been moved to trash. And as I noted, messages that have been in trash for more than 30 days will be automatically deleted. So even if you do move something into trash, you have the ability to get it out if you really wanted to.